Boy, give me what you have, and we can spare you from death. As soon as Tian's words fall, he immediately jumps down 4 figures in the shadow of the trees on the side of the road. After blocking the road, the leader swings his long knife and threatens coldly. There was a real robbery outside. These mountain people are so unscrupulous. Qin Luotian looked at this scene in horror. Although she knew that the people on the mountain were cruel, she did not expect that they were so cruel. It may be easy to practice, but practitioners are not all good. They must make themselves strong. Thinking of this, Qin Luotian clenched his fist and thought to himself, "Give me what you have, and I will spare you from death." But at this time, Leaf Day indifferently toward the 4 people who blocked the way swept an calm way. "Ha ha ha, boy, you really don't know how to die." When people on the mountain with a knife hear Tian's words, they can't help but be stunned. Then they look up and laugh wildly. He has seen a bold guy, but he has never seen such a bold guy as Tian. He was robbed by 4 people, and he even planned to rob him in turn. Did he grow up eating bear heart and leopard gall? This boy will never die until he reaches the Yellow River. Don't talk nonsense with him. Kill him and share everything on him. At this time, along his back, there is another mountain people, Gloomy Road. On hearing this, the people on the mountain holding the sword nodded with a sneer and stepped forward. With the long sword in their hands, they cut off the head towards Tian Dang. The dead and the dead. Tian glanced at him with indifference. As soon as he raised his hand, a ball of fire flew up. Right in the middle of the mountain man, the goods didn't even have time to howl. The whole person was wrapped in flames and turned into ashes in an instant. You. When this strange scene suddenly appeared, the remaining 3 mountain people who were going to get close to Tian suddenly stopped. Their eyes were full of panic. They looked at him in disbelief, their lips moved, but they couldn't say a complete word. They thought that it should be a very easy and simple thing for 4 people to rob Tian alone. But who can think of, the other side is just a face-to-face, then let one of them, there is no power to fight back into the fly ash. Put down your belongings and let you live. Tian glances at the remaining 3 people in the room indifferently. The 3 men looked at each other for a long time, and finally clenched their teeth, put down their weapons, groped on their bodies, and put all the pieces on the ground in front of them. Tiangong's skill has fully proved that even if the 3 of them go up together, they are not Tian's opponents, and they will end up dead. Therefore, they can only choose to spend money to eliminate disasters and save their lives. Go away! Leaf Day toward 3 people swept one eye, cold-shied way. A word falls, these 3 people immediately such as get amnesty, without any hesitation, flurried around to flee. A bunch of poor people. Tian looks at the back of these people leaving. He goes to the bits and pieces that these guys put down. He glances at them and finds that the things they take out are all out-of-date elixirs, and the best one is nothing more than an elixir. However, this did not surprise Tian. With the cultivation strength of these guys, there is no possibility of getting anything good. But Tian is not polite either. With a flick of his hand, he puts these things on the ground into the storage ring. The pharmacist looks at Tian's supernatural means, and his eyes are full of worship. He is more and more sure that Tian has indeed helped himself to get rid of the secret skill that can be traced by the prisoner of heaven, and he is determined to follow Tian's wish like a mandala. A moment later, a taxi came, and the 3 got on and left. Before getting on the bus, they all took off their black robes and hoods. To Tian's surprise, the pharmacist didn't have the aura of a killer. Instead, he was a pale young man, giving people a feeling of weakness. While Tian looks at the pharmacist also looks at Tian quietly. Compared with the shock in Tian's heart, the shock in the pharmacist's heart is more intense. He just saw Tian's supernatural means. He thought Tian should at least be a middle-aged talent. Yes, but he didn't expect that he was a young man with childish eyebrows and a student dress. At this age, I have such incredible accomplishments. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I can't believe it would be true. Where is Tiangu's base in West Fujian? After driving back to the hotel, Tian asked the pharmacist. On an island off the coast of western Fujian. The pharmacist told the truth. When he saw that Yi Tian was not looking well, he said in a trembling voice, "Are you planning to do that, master?" "That's right. I want to see what's going on in that base and get rid of those people who get in the way of the world." Yi Tianping nodded quietly, light way. He even planned to go to the West Fujian base alone. The pharmacist opened his mouth and looked at Yi Tian in disbelief. He didn't say a word for a long time. He knows that there are many people in the world who want to kill Tiangong, but he dares to say that Yi Tian is the only one who can level a base of Tiangong by himself. "Master, I know you are very good, but Tiangu has been operating on that island for several years. He has built many bunkers and various reconnaissance facilities, all of which have heavy firepower. Besides, there are patrols around the island every day. In the past, it was easy to find out." After a long time, the pharmacist came back to him and sincerely dissuaded him. "You don't need to worry about these. You just need to give me the sea area map and defense map. I know exactly what to do." Yi Tianping shook his head, then waved his hand, indicating that the pharmacist could leave. "Yes." Pharmacist wants to say something, but looking at Yi Tian's firm attitude, he respectfully gives a gift, and then leaves the room. Yi Tian doesn't walk from his room. Does he want to live with me at night? Will this progress be a little too fast? Qin Luoshan heard the pharmacist closing the door of the hotel, and then saw that Yi Tian didn't mean to leave. Xiao's cheek turned a little red, his ears were hot, and his heart was also surging. It seemed that he would jump out of his throat at any time. "I'll practice here in the evening and protect you by the way. You can eat that Huangling pill, cut bones and wash marrow, and then start practicing. If you don't know anything, you can ask me at any time." But at this moment, Yi Tian looks at Qin Luo and smiles. Then he goes to the carpet not far from the bed and sits down on his knees. He runs Sui Wan's idea to mobilize the aura of heaven and earth, feed back his body and eliminate the consumption in the rainforest. Going to Minchi base is bound to be a tough battle. He has to raise his state to the top. Only in this way can he be prepared. Originally, he didn't want to do anything, but to protect me and teach me to practice by the way. Qin Luoshan hears Yi Tian's words and is slightly relieved. He secretly scolds himself for thinking so much, and he doesn't know why. At the bottom of his heart, he is inexplicably lost. But when she saw Yi Tian's face, which closed her eyes slightly, just near the place of delay, the loss in her heart disappeared in an instant. She showed a smile again on her face, took out Huang Lingdan, put it into her mouth, and began to cut bones and wash marrow. Gulu gulu. It wasn't long after the pill was imported that Qin Luoshan felt hot and dry all over. A lot of fishy acid and black dirt suddenly appeared along the pores of his body, and his stomach sounded like thunder. This kind of picture appears in front of her beloved. She would like to find a way to get in and try her best to be patient. However, no matter how patient she is, it has no effect. She can't control her body to produce these dirt and those strange sounds. The second floor of the cave. At this time, when Yi Tian heard the strange sound and looked at Qin Luo God, his eyes could not help but stagnate, and his eyes showed a strong color of surprise. If you don't take Huanglingdan, you will be in the first level of the cave. If you take Huanglingdan, you will be in the second level of the cave. Qin Luoshan's cultivation speed is really genius. Ah! At this time, Qin Luoshan saw that Yi Tian was staring at him. He quickly put out his hand to cover his face. He was in a panic and said, "Look back, don't look at me." She is very worried, oneself at the moment this embarrassed appearance, fall to Yi Tian's eyes, will affect his perception of oneself. I didn't remind you that cutting bones and washing marrow will discharge some impurities from the body. Go and wash it quickly. Yi Tian hears the speech, shakes his head with a smile, turns his head to one side, and then says. Qin Luoshan quickly got up from the bed and trotted into the bathroom. In a short time, there were bursts of water clattering along the bathroom. The clatter of water has been along the frosted glass bathroom exposed fuzzy figure, let Yi Tian suddenly feel some can't calm, throat slightly dry, the bottom of the heart is out of control of a stream of heat. This body is really not striving. Where can Yi Tian not know the reason of these changes, and can't help laughing bitterly? Yi Tian, the bath towel and bathrobe in the hotel are not very clean. I don't want to wear them. Can you bring me a dress? A little later, along the bathroom, came Qin Luo God's shy voice. Good. Yi Tian nodded and answered. He glanced around the room. He didn't find that Qin Luoshan had any extra clothes. He took out a t-shirt from the storage ring and went to the bathroom door. He said, You don't have any clothes. Let's wear my t-shirt as pajamas first. Well. Thank you. A word fell. Along the bathroom came the shy voice of Qin Luoshan. Immediately, the bathroom door creak opened a small crack, followed by a snow-white arm like lotus root, stretched out along the bathroom. When Yi Tian saw this, he handed the t-shirt to him. But when he reached over, he couldn't help looking across the seam and saw the mirror hanging on the bathroom wall. Although there are some watermarks on the mirror, it still reflects a graceful body, crystal white skin, round radiant and even a little hazy in delicate pink. This scene makes Yi Tian's young and restless heart, who is totally not worthy of his identity as Emperor of Dan, jump a few times and quickly turn his head. He feels that Qin Luoshan wants to turn around and leave after grasping the t-shirt. At this moment, not only is Yi Tian, the heart of Qin Luo God in the bathroom is also beating wildly. From birth to now, except that when she was very young, her father would help her take a bath, and when she grew up, she had never had such close contact with any man, let alone in the case of this kind of naked man separated from his heart. After receiving the t-shirt, she hurriedly took it to the bathroom door, then grabbed the t-shirt and put it on her body. Ouch! But, at this moment, her mood is shy and nervous. The soles of her feet suddenly slip. People will not be controlled back. No! Yi Tian hears the sudden sound, turns his head and sees the figure in the bathroom falling backward. In his hurry, he has forgotten everything. He quickly goes to the bathroom door, reaches out his hand to open the door and rushes in. Before Qin Luo's body is about to fall to the ground, he holds her in his arms. It's dangerous. Yi Tian turns to Qin Luoshan and looks at a tap on the ground. He can't help but take a long breath. Then he habitually turns to Qin Luoshan. How did she leave day when I passes by, whole person almost all want dull. Qin Luoshan hasn't put on his t-shirt yet. His snow-white and crystal-clear skin is exposed, especially under the background of many water drops. It's like a lotus in the water. People can't help but feel thirsty and have a heart of picking. Although Yi Tian had seen a little in the mirror before, the mirror was wetted by water mist and looked hazy, far less shocked than what he saw with his own eyes at the moment. Needless to say, at the moment, because of the help, the two people's skin is still close together. Yi Tian can clearly feel the cold and greasy after washing, and even feel the rippling in his heart. The heat at the bottom of his heart is like a volcanic eruption. Yi Tian. Qin Luoshan found that he didn't fall to the ground. He exclaimed in surprise, but he saw Yi Tian staring at her. He immediately realized that his situation at the moment was not better than usual. He hurriedly raised his hand to block his chest, and his cheek was shy. He didn't know what to do for a moment. But what made her even more unexpected was that at this moment, she didn't have any mind of resistance except for shyness and embarrassment. She even faintly felt that if Yi Naivete wanted to do something to herself, it was up to him to do it well. Anyway, she and he had already established a relationship. No matter, sooner or later, she would take this step, and she wouldn't mind. I'm sorry, I just heard your voice. I was in a hurry. When Yi Tian heard Qin Luo's voice, he woke up as if from a dream. He quickly lifted Qin Luo up from the ground, turned his head to one side, and his cheeks were red. He explained in a low voice, this guy is still shy. And he just stared at himself. It seems that he is not interested in himself, but respects himself. Qin Luoshan looks at Yi Tian's appearance like a pupil who has done something wrong, and his mouth can't help but evoke a beautiful arc. Go out quickly, I'm going to change my clothes. Think of here, Qin Luo got a hand gently pushed leaf day once, low as the murmur way of mosquito and simulium. Hearing the sound, Yi Tian realized that his staying here would only make the atmosphere more awkward. He quickly turned around and walked out of the bathroom, and then carefully closed the door. Emperor Dan, really lost all my fame. After closing the door, Yi Tian couldn't help shaking his head and laughing bitterly. When he first broke through Yuanying state, he had survived the disaster of the demons, but he didn't expect that he was confused by Qin Luo God. However, I didn't expect that Qin Luotian couldn't see it in his clothes, and his figure was really good, but follow closely. Leaf Day in the head is involuntarily again come up with an idea. Something that doesn't hold up. As soon as the idea came out, Yi Tian hit his chest with a fist, and his face was full of embarrassment and wry smile. This body, too young, too ignorant, simply not worthy of his once powerful soul. Squeak! Just when Yi Tian complains, Qin Luotian also changes his clothes and comes out of the bathroom with a red cheek. Her hair is still stained with a little bit of water. Wearing Yi Tian's loose light pink t-shirt, it looks like a budding lotus. It makes people's eyes pass, and then there is a feeling that she can no longer move away. Your clothes fit me well. Looking at Yi Tian's embarrassed appearance, Qin Luotian chuckles and turns a circle on the ground to show Yi Tian. At the same time, his eyes are full of mist and murmur. Well, you look so much better than I do. Yi Tian touched his nose and looked at the two white and straight thighs, which looked like the thighs carved from the best suede jade. The hand hanging on his side pinched the thighs hard, then he looked away, and then said with sincere admiration. Qin Luotian listens to Yi Tian's praise, and his cheeks are red. When he thinks that he is wearing Yi Tian's clothes, he has an impulse to cheer. Not long ago, she never thought that she could be so close to Yi Tian. But all this is what she wants most after she understands her own state of mind when she travels through the rainforest. Well, let's start practicing. If you have any doubts you don't understand, you can ask me at any time. After Yi Tian tries to calm down, he decides to use cultivation to distract his attention, so as not to lose control of himself and do something to make Qin Luotian feel that he has just established a relationship with her and is so bold that he will think he is too frivolous. Well. Qin Luotian nodded, sat on the bed and began to practice. Just a few seconds later, two people are suddenly coincidentally looking at each other, for eyes meet, dodge away, heart all burst of snicker. This night is destined to be a night of uneasiness. In the shy but tacit atmosphere, the time of the night passed quickly. The next morning, the pharmacist brought the chart and defense chart to the room. I drew the defense map according to my memory, but the prisoners of heaven are very cautious. I suspect that they may change their defense after I leave. When Yi Tian looked at the chart and defense chart, the pharmacist said respectfully. Well. Yi Tian nodded at will. Even if the pharmacist didn't say it, he could guess it. He asked the pharmacist for the defense map, just to estimate the firepower configuration of Tiangu on the island. In this way, if you start by yourself, you can save a lot of worry. Prisoners of heaven, they have turned this island into a military fortress. Yi Tian sweeps a few eyes toward the defense map. When he sees the dense heavy firepower configuration, he can't help but wonder. According to his estimation, even 3 or 4 mountain people at the top of the prefecture level will be killed if they go to the island. However, to the disappointment of Tiangong, his cultivation strength can't be compared with that of 3 or 4 prefectural peaks. These heavy firearms are full of lethality in the eyes of outsiders. As long as he determines the position and flies a sword, he can easily turn these things into a pile of useless scrap iron. Well, I've got a rough idea. I'll start in the evening. Yi Tian took the chart and looked at it carefully. After confirming the location of the island, he nodded and said, Master, do you need me to contact you? I know a few people who specialize in making a living by sneaking out to sea. When the pharmacist heard this, he quickly told Yi Tian Dao. No need. Yi Tian waved his hand and said faintly. When he went out to sea by boat, the target was too big. He suspected that the prisoner would have radar and other things. He was found by the other party before he got close to the island. It was better to choose the royal sword flight. If you don't take a boat, how can you get to the island? There is a vast sea between Ningxi and the base. The pharmacist looks at Yi Tian in confusion and asks, but thinking of Yi Tian's means yesterday, he still keeps his doubts in mind. A day passed quickly. After dark, Yi Tian took the flying sword out of the dantian. After telling Qin Luotian a few words, he flew to the coastline. Imperial Sword God, Master, he is an immortal. The pharmacist looked at the figure of Yi Tian's sword leaving, and sat down on the ground. After a long time, he murmured. Qin Luotian looked at the pharmacist excited to the extreme. He could not help but feel proud and raised his head and chest. He said quietly in his heart, "In fact, I also experienced the feeling of flying with him. The flying sword is flying in the air, and the speed is extremely fast." After a short video, Tian has come to the boundless sea. Although there is moonlight in the sea at night, it is still dark. Ordinary people would have lost their way long ago, but Tian, who has the eye of heaven, can easily distinguish the route from the dark night. A little later, he appeared on an island with an area of about 10 square kilometers. The surface of the island looks very desolate, except for some big rocks and a few coconut trees. There is nothing else. It seems that it is no different from the ordinary desert island on the sea. However, when Tian saw more than a dozen people in black patrolling along the coastline around the island, he immediately confirmed that this is indeed a base of Tiangong in western Fujian. After circling a little in the sky, Tian fell into a cluster of rocks. When his mind dispersed, he immediately realized that not far away from himself, there was a door hidden by several rocks, and there were two guys with guns inside. The gate was repaired in a concealed way. It was the same color as the surrounding rocks. When it was closed, it was impossible to distinguish the stone from the door. However, the two guys guarding the gate obviously didn't expect that someone would come to the island quietly. Now they are sleeping by the gate, and they don't realize that someone is looking at them quietly. Tian quickly steps forward, several ups and downs, and then appears in front of the gate. He touches the gate with his hand. Through the cold touch, he judges that it should be made of some high-strength alloy. "I'm afraid ordinary explosives can't be exploded." For ordinary people, it's hard to open such a door, but for Tian, who has a fierce sword, it's as simple as eating and drinking water. Without any hesitation, Tian brushes a few swords towards the gate with his sword. He doesn't give the two killers behind the gate any chance to react. He pushes his hand towards the gate and jumps in when the heavy alloy blocks fall. There was a strong wind on the island. When the gate was pushed open, a cold sea breeze immediately swept over the island, which made the two sleeping killers wake up. When they saw that the gate had broken a hole, and there were many people in front of them, one of them immediately lifted the gun in his arms, while the other pressed the alarm not far from the wall. The wind is coming. Although the reaction speed of these two people is not slow, it's a pity that Tian would give them a chance to call for help. With a shake of his hand, two wind blades pierced their chests, making them sit on the ground and lose their breath. These two people to die, the face retains the frightened look, as if can't understand why someone can silent invasion. Tian pushes the alloy block back to the gate, and leans the two people by the door. After they are asleep, they walk along the corridor and continue to walk forward. Just after walking a few steps, Tian saw that there were several sets of work clothes hanging in the corridor by the road. Without thinking, he put these clothes on himself and dressed up as a prisoner killer on duty. Not far ahead, Tian saw a transparent glass room. In the room, a prisoner killer was sleeping on a table. In front of him, there were large screens marked with monitoring images of the island. There were even several screens with infrared night vision, facing the sea in front of him to capture ships close to the island. How close? Tian glances at one of them and finds that it's only a few steps away from the place where he landed. If he doesn't come by royal sword, but by boat, he may have been discovered by the other party before he found it. Tian stealthily pushes the door open and walks into the monitoring room. He pinches the killer's back neck, knocks him unconscious, and then sweeps his eyes at the main console. Then he starts to shut down the alarm and monitoring system. Pop. Immediately after that, he slapped the killer's face with his backhand and woke him up from his coma. You. When the killer wakes up from pain, he opens his mouth and screams when he sees Tian in front of him. He couldn't understand how someone could sneak into the base quietly. Shut up! Tian raised his hand, and the flying sword fell on the neck of the killer. Then he said coldly, "I ask, you answer. If you dare to hide or speak loud, you can't live." The cold sword edge is close to the neck, or can the killer not know that his life and death are in each other's mind, and he nodded in panic. "How many people are there in this base? Besides heavy firepower, are there any practitioners?" Tian asked in a cold voice. "There are a total of 80 people in the base. In addition to all kinds of heavy firepower, there are also 10 powerful experts." Their strength seems to be equivalent to that of some prefecture level later stage. These 10 people are not with us at ordinary times. Heaven prisoner killers panic. In the later stage of the 10 prefectural level, it seems that the tentacles of the heaven prisoners have reached the ranks of the people on the mountain, and there is such strength in one base. I'm afraid the strength of the whole heaven prisoners is no less than that of the 3 sects and 6 sects. Just, what does a killer organization do to cultivate so many powerful mountain people? Even if they are asked to perform some extremely difficult tasks, they can't use so many people, can they? Yi Tian listened to each other's words, slightly surprised and confused at the same time, immediately asked his most concerned question: where are they doing experiments in the base? And what's the purpose of that experiment? Go straight along the outside road, you can go to the place where you are doing the experiment, but my level is too low, I can't enter those places at all, and I can't touch the things about the experiment, so I don't know what experiment they are doing. The killer pointed to the door and then said in a panic. But although his voice was flustered, Yi Tian still recognized that when this guy said that he was not qualified to participate in the experiment, there was a fluke in the voice besides his fear of himself. You seem to be afraid of that experiment? What's going on? Say Yi Tian Yan in here, sword edge a shake, and close to the neck of that day prisoner killer a few minutes, cold way. I don't know what the experiment is doing, but it seems very terrible. Once, when I walked outside the altar of the laboratory, I heard the shrill cries coming from inside. Moreover, the experiment often killed people. I and several other people have been responsible for cleaning the corpses several times. Those people died miserably. When several people came out of the laboratory, they were all meat pieces. The killer shivered and said in horror. In the end, his eyes showed a strong fear. The eyes, straight let Yi Tian feel, I'm afraid in this guy's eyes, he is afraid of experiment, more than fear of the sword hanging on his neck. Laboratory altar? Why the altar? Yi Tian hears the news and sweeps his eyes at the killer of the prisoner, wondering. The laboratory and the altar are quite different. One is a symbol of science and technology, and the other is the power of unknown mystery. How can these two be confused by this guy in front of us? I don't know. I heard those guys in the lab call me that. The prisoner killer explained hastily. Is the experiment made by the prisoner killer a kind of sacrifice? Yi Tian frowned, and many doubts appeared in his heart. He felt that the experiment being carried out by the prisoner was not right. You should have identification passwords and codes, right? What is it today? Yi Tian continues to ask. The day of God's coming. The prisoner killer said in a hurry. God down? Yi Tian frowned. These two words contain too many meanings. He didn't understand how Tiangong chose this word as the code. In particular, the combination of Xinjiang and the altar made Yi Tian feel that there was a layer of fog in front of him that he could not see clearly. It said that today is a critical time for the experiment. There is great hope of success, and it will be an extremely significant breakthrough, which is quite different from the previous successful ones. So those lunatics hope to get some good color heads with this code. The killer swallows his saliva and explains. Good color? This code is really a good color. Yi Tian hears the sound and smiles. No matter what kind of experiment Tiangu is doing, but in terms of the style of this group of people, they will never do anything good. However, these people's code names are really good. Today, his sword is flying down from the sky, just like a magic weapon from the sky. Isn't that what these people are looking forward to? Please spare me. I'm just a little killer. I haven't carried out a task. I can only do some chores for them. I don't have any life on my hands. Please give me a way to live. At this time, the killer fell on his knees and kowtowed to Yi Tian, hoping to be forgiven. Go back to your seat, sit down and get down. Yi Tian glances at this guy and finds that he doesn't have any evil spirit. He doesn't even have the breath of Suozhou Taoism. After that, he confirms that he doesn't lie. He's just a small character who can't be more peripheral. He immediately says. The prisoner killer looked at Yi Tian in horror and wanted to beg for a few more words. But when he saw Yi Tian's long sword, he could only sit back and lie on the table, shivering, for fear that Yi Tian would suddenly give himself a sword. Bang! Yi Tian waited until this guy lay down, his hand suddenly raised, a palm heavily cut on the back of his head and neck, then knocked him unconscious. Although he came with the idea of killing and revenge, it did not mean that he would kill indiscriminately. Naturally, it would not be difficult for such a person to have a small role without human life in his hands. After knocking out the killer, Yi Tian walks out of the monitoring room. Fei Jian enters Dan Tian and is ready to fly out at any time. After injuring someone, he strides along the passage and walks forward. The underground space is huge and the lights are bright. As far as Yi Tian can see, there are not only training areas, but also living areas. As far as Yi Tian can feel, I'm afraid the lower part of the island has been hollowed out by the prisoners. This scene, let Yi Tian can't help but secretly speechless, unconsciously under an island, built such a huge building, have to say, the strength of the prisoner, is really extraordinary. Not only that, but also the skin color of these killers is different. In addition to the yellow people represented by the Chinese, there are many white and black people, but without exception, these people are all fully armed, or with heavy weapons, or with long knives and other things, and stare nervously at the depths of the passage, just as they are making preparations to prevent monsters from rushing out to kill. Even in this tense state, they didn't even realize Yi Tian's face, who came all the way from the outside. They didn't even stand up to verify his identity and connect his password. What kind of experiment is Tiangong doing to make these notorious Tiangong killers afraid to look like this? Yi Tian looked at this scene, his heart cannot help but be full of doubts, more curious about the experiment in the laboratory altar. Stop, who are you? Password. Just when Yi Tian came to the area separated by a silver alloy wall, two killers stood at the entrance and stopped him immediately. They scanned and said in a cold voice, "The day of God's coming. I'm a patrolman. Just now, a monitoring unit is damaged. It's suspected that someone is sneaking in. I've been ordered to go to the laboratory to check whether the situation is safe." Yi Tian does not hurry to stop, say the password at the same time, will already think of good wording said. Hearing Yi Tian's command, the two killers who guard the entrance of the laboratory nodded, then separated the two sides and gave way to a passage. Seeing this, Yi Tian strode toward the entrance. "Wait a minute. What's your name?" But when Yi Tian came to the middle of the two, a prisoner killer suddenly looked at Yi Tian's face. His expression suddenly became dignified. While he touched the trigger, he asked in a deep voice, "Show off." Yi Tian, with a smile on his face, is ready to release the flying sword. As a result, he drops the two guys who are full of evil spirit. Then he rushes into the altar of the laboratory to see what the prisoner is doing. Drip drip. However, before the flying sword flew out, there was a sudden burst of sound along the laboratory. Then, along the door of the laboratory, a red light suddenly and madly flickered. What happened? When Yi Tian saw this, his eyes suddenly changed. Subject 37 escapes, be alert, level 1 alert, shoot and kill at will. At the same time, along the horn above the laboratory door, suddenly came a cold and heartless mechanical female voice. Hula. At the same time, the killers behind Yi Tian's body get up one after another, load the guns, open the insurance, and wait for them one by one. The killers who have been interrogating Yi Tian before are no longer willing to continue to interrogate Yi Tian, but turn around the muzzle and aim at the door of the laboratory. Even Yi Tian saw that the legs of the two killers were shaking. How can these guys be so afraid? Yi Tian's heart is full of doubts. Even if he is ready to spread his mind, he will investigate the situation behind the alloy wall. Boom! Boom! But before his thoughts came out, along the back of the metal wall, there was a violent roar. First, a heavy object fell on the wall and smashed, followed by a dull sound. Then, along the heavy and solid alloy wall, there was a palm print, with 5 distinct fingers, which was taken by hand. I'll go. What a strength! This scene makes Yi Tian's eyes twitch a few times. As far as he feels, the strength of this palm is absolutely equivalent to half a step of the sky. Boom! And just when Yi Tian was secretly frightened, along the laboratory, there continued to be violent and terrifying roars like thunder. On the metal wall, paw prints became more and more dense, and even there were many fist prints. Every impact made people feel that the ground was shaking. In this scene, even Tian was secretly frightened, let alone the killers of those prisoners. Everyone was shivering. Although he was carrying a gun in his hand, his forehead was still covered with sweat beads the size of soybeans. Roar! At this moment, there was a loud sound like tearing cloth and silk along the metal wall. Immediately, the wall, about 2 feet thick, was torn in half. Immediately, a bloody figure rushed out. After standing still, he pointed his head to the people in front and roared like a beast. "What is this?" Tian looked at the bloody figure, his eyes were a little dull. "I saw that this is a giant about 2.34 meters tall. If it wasn't for his head and limbs, he would be regarded as a deformed beast just because he could not see his skin, only his blood-red muscles. Ui. This beast-like guy, obviously with some remaining intelligence, stood in front of and behind the crowd, spread his palm to his own face, and then looked at the killers in front of him, stammered. However, his voice, at the moment, is not from the human throat, but more like a beast in the deep roar. There's something in this guy's body, it's strange. It's like Tian opened Tian's eyes and saw that there were some transparent things in this guy's body, which were like broken human shape. They were sending out the breath of practitioners. They were waving the blood of this monster, making him exude great power. Broken spirit body. Suddenly, Tian's eyes moved, and suddenly felt that the things in this strange object were similar to the situation when Ning Yao appeared in the Valley of Death on that day. However, Ning Yao's spirit body was more complete and undamaged, and the spirit body in this strange object was broken. It seemed that it was dying. It was obvious that it had lost consciousness, leaving only pure biological instinct. God, immediately, Tian's eyes are tiny, and he thinks of the prisoner killer in the monitoring room and his code name. For a moment, he suddenly doubted that the experiment made by the prisoner would be to transfer these broken spirit bodies to the bodies of the killers who participated in the experiment, and let them have a strong power with the help of the spirit body's ability. However, what Tian can't understand is where the prisoner killer got so many spirit bodies. You know, the spirit body can only be possessed after you reach the golden elixir realm. And those mountain people on the earth, even if they practice hard for a lifetime, with their incomplete secret methods and the rare aura on the earth, they can't reach the level of cultivating spiritual body. Bang! Just when Tian thinks about it, a prisoner killer suddenly raises the black barrel of his gun and presses the trigger on his former companion. Poof! The assassin's shooting was accurate. With one shot, the bullet hit the monster's chest, and a blood burst out. Hit it! A shot hit, immediately someone happy voice, think this monster was hit in the heart, absolutely will die. It's no use. This guy's body has completely mutated under the action of spirit body. Tian shakes his head slightly. He can feel that the vitality of the monster is not weakened by this shot. On the contrary, the stabbing pain brought by the bullet makes the blood in this guy's body more like a volcanic eruption. Roar! Sure enough, the next second, the monster roared and pushed his feet toward the ground. His body immediately turned into a shadow and rushed into the crowd. Then, with both hands facing forward, he grasped the prisoner killer who shot at him. Wow! Immediately after that, his hands burst into force, and he tore the killer in half like a rag doll. For a moment, the blood foam was flying in the field, and there were colorful viscera everywhere, with a strong smell of blood. Oh, even though the killers of these prisoners are fierce people who kill people without blinking an eye, at this moment, there are still many people who can't restrain the melancholy feeling in their heart. They bend down and vomit loudly. This guy, who is no longer human, is completely occupied by the evil instinct in the incomplete spirit. The spirit body is very special. If the spirit is completely destroyed, it is a simple aura. Some monks can even let their own spirit body devour these spiritless spirit bodies to grow up. If they have a completely spiritual spirit body, just like Ning Yao, they have no entity, just like when they are alive. If they can find a suitable carrier, as long as they can, if the spirit of the spirit body does not die, the second can live. But if the spirit is incomplete, then it will become strange, or vicious, or sometimes crazy, sometimes normal, temperament changes, but in the spirit of incomplete body, the probability of the former is far higher than the latter. Tian looked at this scene, the bottom of his heart also slightly took a cold breath. At this moment, he suddenly realized that the water of the experimental event in Tiangong base was much deeper than he thought. Even, it is likely to involve the ancient times of the earth. Death, you are all going to die. After tearing the killer, the monster took half of his body as a weapon, roared in his mouth and swept around like two sticks. Bang! Bang! Just a few blinks of an eye, a large number of killer prisoners, like wheat, were put down to the ground, one by one in pain. Although a lot of bullets hit this guy, he just couldn't feel it. Even though he was bleeding, his fighting power was still not reduced, and he easily swept through the blockbusters. Damn, what kind of monster is this? Bullets have no effect at all. Do you want us to subdue him or take our lives to support these damned monsters? I want to leave. I want to be like Mandala and Pharmacist, get rid of this bondage. The killer was killed to death. Suddenly, the killer couldn't bear the fear anymore. He lost his mind and ran to the exit of the base with a roar. As soon as he took the lead, there were several killers in Tiangong's eyes. Obviously, they also moved. Like Mandala and Pharmacist, they broke away from Tiangong and got a free body. They no longer had to be tortured by this monster. Those who betray the prisoners of heaven will be killed at the ends of the earth. However, before the man stepped out for a few steps, along the side, suddenly a group of prisoners killers in black, holding swords and other cold weapons appeared. They took the lead, raised their hands, knocked this guy down, looked at him from a high position, and then turned to look at other prisoners killers who were moved, and said coldly, "He dares to imitate effectively, he is an example." With one word, the killers who had originally thought of escaping from the prison were trembling and gnashing their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. Keep shooting, let's get a chance to do it. Immediately after that, the killer of the prisoner in black with a knife in his hand cheers coldly to the killer of the prisoner in Tian. Grandmas or brothers, fight with this monster, kill him. Yes, it's a dead end. It's better to fight with this monster. Maybe there's a way to live. The killer of those prisoners saw that he was dead when he turned back, and he was also dead when he came forward. He gritted his teeth and took up the gun in his hand. The bullet was like a raindrop without money. It poured down on the monster, trying to beat him into a sieve. This guy, not long ago, was also your brother. Tian listens to these people's murderous words and sneers in his heart. However, from the fact that these guys dare to fight with the monsters, but dare not fight against the killers, we can see that they are more afraid of the killers than the monsters. That guy over there, what are you doing? Why don't you move? But at this time, the leading killer of the prisoner in black saw that Tian was still in the crowd. With the shock of the long knife, he yelled in a cold voice, "Give it to me, or I will kill you." Kill me? Tian sneers. He's about to run the flying sword. As a result, he loses his life. But the next second, his eyes turn, and he has more plans in his heart. Kill then, with a roar, he picked up a long knife from the ground and rushed to the monster. Bang! Before he got close, the monster waved his hand, and he flew all over the place, then fell heavily on the ground at the entrance of the laboratory. Data. At this time, the remaining killers have started to shoot at the monster, but unfortunately, the damage that the bullet can do to this guy is too limited. Even if the bullet penetrates his body and brings out blood, it still seems that it doesn't notice. Not only that, after the monster rushed into the battle group, it also took the lives of several day prisoner killers. A bunch of useless rubbish. Seeing this, the leader, the killer in black, scolded coldly, then said in a deep voice to several other killers in black behind him, "Form a battle. Brush." After a word, these killers of the heaven prisoner in black immediately form an inverted triangle array. Everyone's breath is connected. It is clear that they are just a group of the peak and later stage of the prefecture level, but with the help of the array, they create a powerful breath comparable to the middle stage of the heaven level. Dao Gang. Immediately, the leader of the black prisoner killer yelled, and his companions in the array put out their swords almost at the same time. In an instant, all the swords gathered together, and burst out as if they had been cut by the middle of the sky level. Click! With a knife, although the monster tried to resist, Dao Gang finally fell on his shoulder. This sharp Daogang was so sharp that it could not be more powerful. At the moment of cutting, the whole arm of the monster was cut off. There are some ways in this array, which are much better than the Insha array of Dishigate. It seems that this day's prisoner really hid a lot of secrets. Otherwise, how could he have a powerful array that could not be compared with 3 sects and 6 sects? Yi Tian looks at this amazing knife, slightly speechless. In the heart is more a lot of doubts, but at the moment he is also lazy to think so much, but take advantage of the opportunity to fall in the laboratory door, looking inside. The altar. This is either a laboratory for scientific research or an altar to the core. Yi Tian Yuguang sweeps towards the laboratory and immediately sees that behind the alloy metal wall, although there are a group of guys in white coats, the layout inside is no different from the altar used for sacrifice. Not only that, Yi Tian also saw that at the edge of the altar, there was a middle-aged man with a clear face. He was wearing gold glasses. He looked gentle and elegant, but in the eyes behind the glasses, he was looking at the ferocious monster, as if he was looking at his elaborate production. Although he failed, he still felt proud. It's the same as Hao's work. Is this guy the leader of Heaven Prisoner? Yi Tianyan in here, heart suddenly move. No. But just then, the man with the gold glasses, who was staring at by him, glanced at the place where he was lying down as if he suddenly noticed something. This guy is so sharp. He almost found him. But what makes Yi Tian feel lucky is that the gold glasses man just glanced at him, then moved his eyes, then turned his head and said a few words to a woman around him, then walked towards the deeper place of the laboratory altar in the other person's odd eyes. This guy is not going to leave, is he? Yi Tian saw this scene, his heart suddenly awed. Whoa! 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 At this time, the battle between the killers and monsters of the group of prisoners in black has come to an end. Although the monster's strength is fierce, its strength is only half of the sky level. However, with the help of Array, these killers can break out the strength in the middle of the sky level. In such a repressive situation, the fierce swords had cut off all the limbs of the monster, leaving only a huge body wriggling on the ground, making a series of shrill roars at the crowd. We can't let this guy leave. Seeing this, Yi Tian's eyes were awe-inspiring. Without any hesitation, he raised his palm to the ground and jumped up. His body was like a cold electricity. He shot at the altar of the laboratory to stop the man with gold glasses. Black Guard. Stop this man. Shoot to kill. See Yi Tian's action, that gold silk glasses male immediately coldly voice, hand down suddenly a wave. Stop. With the sound of the man with gold glasses, the killers of the prisoners in black who formed the battle behind Yi Tian immediately drank in unison, and immediately a sharp sword, like flowing water, chopped toward Yi Tian. Dao Gang breath, firmly lock Yi Tian's back, even if far away, let Yi Tian's back have a kind of stabbing pain. To die. Yi Tian's eyes are slightly awe-inspiring. Knowing that he can't avoid it, his mana moves and a wind blade flies out and rushes towards Dao Gang. Kung. When they touched each other, the fierce sound of gold and iron suddenly burst out, the sword gang burst into pieces, and all the strength flew in all directions like hailstones rolled by the wind. When they fell on several ordinary prisoners around them, they even cut their bodies in half. Chi hiss. What's more, after the wind blade smashed Dao Gang, although it was damaged, it was still castrated. A few pieces fell on the front of the killers, tearing their bodies apart and overflowing with blood. Who is this guy? Why is his strength so terrible? This scene changed the faces of the killers of the prisoners in black. After retreating, while they were on guard, their faces were in a panic. Some people are injured, which means that their array is useless, but they really can't understand how this powerful guy sneaked into the base and into this core place. You know, control is everywhere on the island. Although it can't be said that even a fly can't fly in, as long as there are boats or airplanes near, they will be found. But how did this guy come here without a sound? Can't such a living man swim from the sea? And even if you swim, there is infrared monitoring in the sea, so you can't find such a big living person. Release all the out-of-control subjects and stop him. At this time, the gold eyeglasses man who is ready to leave suddenly stops and stares at Yi Tian. If he has made any decision, he is hoarse and says word by word to the woman in the white coat. Let go of all the runaway subjects? Isn't the base going to be in chaos? Can anyone survive? Hearing this, the woman in the white coat turned her head and looked at the man with gold glasses. Believe me, if we don't let it go, the base will be more chaotic than it is now. And this guy is more difficult to deal with than those experimental subjects. The gold glasses man pushed the frame on his nose and said in a deep voice, "Don't say so much, execute the order." Yes, the woman in the white coat clenched her lower lip, nodded and stepped back. First, she pressed a blue button. With the sound of rotation, a thick glass separated their area. Then she raised her hand again and pressed a red button. Boom! Boom! In an instant, huge silver metal cages covered with huge plastic covers and filled with green gas suddenly emerged from the wall. In each cage, there was a monster just like that guy before. Roar! Roar! Roar. When the plastic cover is opened and the green gas dissipates, the sleeping monsters immediately wake up, stare at the blood-red eyes, grasp the railing of the cage, just like trapped animals, roar everywhere, and make a terrible roar to the outside. How many experiments have these guys done? What's more, this group of goods are cruel to others and their own people, even more cruel. Leaf Day, looking at that dense, add up to be afraid enough to have 20 or 30 cages, Canthus can't help a burst of crazy jump. 20 or 30 living monsters, according to the pharmacist and the guy in the control room. With that terrible death rate, the number of experiments carried out by the prisoner here is definitely not less than 100, or even more. Experiment 100 times, that is 100 lives. Roar, roar, roar. At this time, the metal cages of the monsters had been opened, and the monsters sprang out from inside, looking at Tian and roaring hoarsely and ferociously. These guys, obviously, have been locked up for a period of time. Unlike the monster before, they have been completely attacked by demons and lost their intelligence. They are just walking corpses with killing instinct. Dawn. In an instant, a monster jumped out of the metal cage, and some of them rushed directly towards Tian, waving their arms. Transparent and viscous mucus came out of the corners of their mouths, which looked no different from the wild animals they were hunting. Another part is to rush to the remaining killers of the prisoners in black. The battle is over. Seeing this, the killers of the prisoners in black immediately yelled out and wanted to form a formation to defend themselves. But unfortunately, the monsters were fierce. After they came out, they were drowned like the flood of breaking the dike. It was only a few breaths. All the killers of the prisoners in black had been killed. Some monsters even squatted on their necks and began to chew. Come on. Although these guys still keep the basic characteristics of human body, they are no different from wild animals in fact. If only these guys with extraordinary strength could preserve their intelligence. Looking at the bloody picture outside the glass curtain wall, the woman in the white coat murmured as she felt sick. To live like a wild animal is more painful than death. Today I will give you a relief. Tian's body is light and nimble. After avoiding the monsters coming towards him, his eyes show compassion. With a raise of his hand, a fireball suddenly flies out and rushes into the monsters. The flames are burning. In the blink of an eye, several monsters are engulfed by the flames. Just a little time, they turn into flying ash and fall on the ground. The wind is coming. As the fireball flies out, Tian's hand is raised, and another wind blade flies up. The clear wind blade sweeps across, and several monsters, like wheat, are cut to the ground, convulsed violently, and completely lose their fighting power. This guy is so powerful. If we can take him as the experimental object, the experiment may be an unprecedented success. White coat woman across the glass, staring at the monster group attack kill Tian, eyes suddenly have strange light release, that eyes, like to see what is very precious baby. Release anesthetic gas, I want him alive, I want him to experiment, he is the most perfect experimental blueprint. Read here, white coat woman's eyes shining, looking at a few people around, a loud sentence. A word fell, several people around her immediately came to the console, without any hesitation, then quickly pressed the control switch. In an instant, along the outside four corners, began to have dark green fog suddenly scattered. These guys wanna numb me up when their mice do experiments. Tian see this scene, immediately understand each other's little mind. Wishful thinking. When Tian's eyes were cold, several wind blades came out, and after solving some monsters, he jumped up and came to the front of the glass curtain wall and stood opposite the woman in the white coat. When the woman in white coat saw Tian approaching, she was startled and retreated. Her face immediately showed the color of ridicule. She walked a few steps closer to the glass curtain wall, her hands close to the glass, and her eyes swept all over Tian's body. However, this vision is not like looking at people, but like a butcher looking at a fat pig to be slaughtered, distinguishing which part of its body can cut off the most meat and sell it. Do you think I can't help you when you stand behind the glass? Tian looks at the woman behind the glass curtain wall with a cold smile. With a sudden thought, the fierce sword flies out. He holds it tightly in his hand and stabs it at the glass curtain wall. Where did he make such a sword? Seeing Tian's action, the woman in the white coat's eyes were stunned, but immediately, her face was more full-bodied with a mocking smile. The glass curtain wall is made of extremely special materials. It is not only very strong, but also flexible. Even these monsters who can break through the alloy walls have no way to break through these glass curtain walls. Now, Tian wants to cut it with a sword, which is wishful thinking. Whoa! But when the smile on the white coat woman's face was bright, her ears suddenly heard the clear sound of the sharp blade cutting into the object, and when she looked at the position of Tian Luo's sword, the mocking smile on her face was frozen in an instant. At this moment, under the edge of the sword, the glass curtain wall, which was originally so strong that it could not be broken, was no different from a piece of broken wood. The long sword easily pierced in, and then cut a huge gap like a sharp knife cutting tofu. God, what is his sword made of? The next second, she shivered. She turned her head and looked at the people around her. She said in panic, "Run, go now." At the moment when the words fell, she took the lead to flee to the rear. In their opinion, those powerful and omnipotent monsters are not Tian's opponents. As long as Tian cuts the glass curtain wall and waits for them, how can they have good fruit to eat? Want to escape? Can you escape? Tian sneers and waves his long sword. The glass curtain wall is split in an instant. Then he steps in and cuts the control panel into pieces with his flying sword, which stops the anesthetic fog. At the same time, his body moves with him and appears in front of the white coat woman and others, blocking their way. Please, spare us, we can use it for you, do experiments for you, and cultivate powerful forces for you in the future. The woman in white looks at Tian, her legs are soft, she kneels down on the ground, kowtows to him and prays. Don't you like making monsters? Now, let yourself feel the feeling of being torn to pieces by the monster. Tian swept his eyes indifferently towards these people, and then saw those ferocious monsters. At the moment, he crawled in along the glass hole he cut. After a series of low roars, he sneered. These people, in vain of human life, take living people to carry out this terrible experiment, and turn people into monsters. It can be said that these guys are even more terrible than those ferocious monsters. How can Tian keep such people alive? Not only that, Tian also wants these people to die in the hands of monsters created by themselves, so that they can understand that those who play with fire will be burned by fire, and those who cultivate monsters will be eaten by monsters. Die in the hands of these monsters, the best destination for those who make monsters. No. The woman in the white coat shivered when she heard the news. She just wanted to cry for help, but before she said anything, she felt a strong wind coming behind her. When he turned his head, he suddenly saw a ferocious monster staring at her. Roar ah! In a flash, the roar of the monster, and the howl of the woman, followed by the tearing sound. That guy is not here. He just escaped. Did that guy find me? But the prisoner does not know my message. Tian doesn't pay attention to these miserable howling guys. He sweeps his eyes at the altar that emits an extremely evil breath. He frowns slightly and doesn't pay attention. Instead, he rushes forward quickly along the passage. Although there are many doubts here, he believes that as long as he catches the man with gold glasses, everything will come to light. Zheng. Tiancheng was afraid that the man with golden glasses would run away. Without thinking, he flew straight along the corridor with his sword. The corridor was built directly to the coast. When Tianyu's sword flew to the end of the corridor, he heard the roaring sound of the propeller turning violently when the helicopter took off. When he rushed out of the corridor, he immediately saw a helicopter hovering overhead. Want to go, dream. Tian saw this, Izalin, without any hesitation, flying sword up, toward the top quickly fly, just in the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of the helicopter cockpit. This you. The pilot suddenly saw a living man standing outside the cabin glass. He was so surprised that he almost didn't get up from his seat. Flying sword, it's really you. At this time, Tian saw that the golden eyeglasses man was sitting in the cabin, and when he saw that he was standing outside, his face was also shocked, but the shock was not unimaginable shock, but a shock that he had known for a long time that there was royal sword flying skill, but he didn't expect that Tian had mastered. Not only that, Tian past more information can be judged from the change of the other's lip shape. This sentence is just like the other party has already known himself. However, there is no doubt that the prisoners of heaven do not know his true identity, and even know nothing about his ability to fly with the sword. Who the hell is this guy? Tian's eyebrows can't help wrinkling, and he thinks that there are many secrets he didn't know in the gold glasses man. The wind is coming. But at this moment, Tian doesn't want to think so much. With a lift of his hand, the wind blade flies out and cuts off the helicopter's propeller. While the plane loses power and falls, another wind blade blows out and cuts the helicopter in half. Then the imperial sword comes to the center, grabs the golden spectacle man's back neck and drags him to the island. Whoa! Almost at the same time when Tian's feet are standing on the beach, the cold light in the eyes of the man with gold glasses flashes, and a wind blade suddenly flies out of his hand, stabbing Tian's chest. Complete Taoist art, who are you? The wind blade is coming. Tianru has been aware of this scene for a long time. His body suddenly moves, and then he lightly avoids the wind blade. He follows closely. His eyes are awe-inspiring and he looks at the man with gold glasses. Since he came to the earth, this is the first time that he has seen the complete Taoist art of windblade performed by people other than himself. You know, even those heaven-level masters in Sanzangliaman didn't master this secret skill. The man with golden glasses is just a killer of the prisoner of heaven. How can he master the complete Taoist art that he has not mastered even 3 sects and 6 sections? Since they have complete Taoism, doesn't it mean that they also have great possibility to master complete cultivation secrets? Yadandi is really careful and insightful. However, everyone in Fangsuan Lingyu thinks that Yetian is dead, but unexpectedly, he has a second life on the Earth Star. This star is really extraordinary. But at this time, the gold glasses man missed a blow, his face changed a little, and suddenly looked at Tian, smiling and playing. He even knew what I was doing in Fangsuan Lingyu and called me Yadandi. Is he? Although the voice of the man with gold glasses is not big, it can be introduced into Tian's ears, but it seems that there is thunder, which makes his whole head buzzing. You know, in the whole world, only Qin Luoshan and Taisui know about his cultivation in Fangsuan Lingyu and his achievement of Emperor Dan, and neither of them can tell this secret to a third person. But now, the secret, like a worthless Chinese cabbage, came out of the mouth of a prisoner killer. In your body, there is a whole spirit. You are the one who has made it. Thinking of this, Tian doesn't have any hesitation. He quickly opens Yuan Tian's eyes and sweeps towards the man with gold glasses. His eyes pass by. He immediately sees that there is a spirit body in the man with gold glasses, just like those monsters. However, different from those monsters, the spirit body of the man with gold glasses is not incomplete, but extremely complete. Not only that, when Tian's eyes shine through, you can see that the spirit body of this man has been separated into strands of silk threads, which are closely intertwined with the body. This is a sign that the spirit body and the body it occupies are one. Similarly, this also shows another point, that is, the spirit in this guy's body has been on Earth for some time. Even at this moment, Tian began to doubt whether the spirit that came to Earth was not the only one, but more. This secret let Tian simply shocked to the point of no more. However, the practitioners who can cultivate spiritual bodies, even in the square-inch spiritual realm, are already masters. If they don't practice well, what can they do on the Earth, a planet with poor aura? What's more, Tian can't help but feel a little moved. It's very difficult to integrate the spirit body and the body. It's related to the memory of the soul. If there is a little deviation, it is very likely that there will be an irreversible situation. If we master the means of these people's successful arrival, we can make Ning Yao's spirit body merge with them after finding a suitable body. But the next second, Yi Tian shook his head and gave up the idea. The other party may have mastered a unique secret skill, but only from the perspective of the monsters in the laboratory. The secret skill they mastered is not perfect, but there is a big mistake. And carelessness will make Ning Yao a monster. These guys dare to gamble, but he can't gamble with Ning Yao. You Yedan Emperor can enter this star with spirit, why can't we? But you look like you really don't know anything about this star. I can give you two choices. One is to choose to cooperate with us, live and continue to be your Yetian. Maybe one day, you can continue to be a great friar in Yupu realm, and become Yedan Emperor. The other is to fight against us and die. Gold Glasses Man looked at the expression on Yi Tian's face and laughed. These guys are really here for the secret of the earth. What is hidden in the earth? Even these monks in the spiritual realm can abandon their bodies and choose to come down as spiritual bodies. Yi Tian stares at the man with gold glasses, and his eyes are changeable. What he saw and heard at this moment was what he didn't expect before he came to this base. Moreover, when he was in the square-inch spiritual realm, he had never heard of these messages about the earth. What's more important is that the timeline between the earth and the square-inch spiritual realm is disordered. It depends on the degree of fusion of the spiritual body and the physical body of the person. The time of coming to the earth will not be too long. So what methods do they use to make the disordered timeline parallel and symmetrical? Is there a powerful force behind them that can interfere with time? Dark Age. While Yi Tian trembled, a bold guess suddenly appeared in his mind. When he entered the spiritual realm of Fengsuan, it was after the end of the Dark Age. However, according to the information he learned in the spiritual realm of Fengsuan, although the dark and turbulent times were extremely terrible and the monks were precarious, many powerful practitioners were born in the blood and fire, even in the heavenly palace. However, those people disappeared after the end of the Dark Age. According to the monks of Fengsuan spiritual realm, those heavenly palaces were led into extinction with the end of the Dark Age. But now it seems that perhaps they did not die out, at least some of them survived. Yadandi, cooperating with us is definitely your best choice. If you can survive that fierce battle and come to Earth, don't you want to return to the square-inch spiritual realm one day and kill those who hurt you so much? Gold Glasses Man continues to use a kind of bewitching tone, slowly way. This guy thinks that like him, I am a spirit body entering the earth. Yi Tian heard this, the corner of his mouth suddenly showed a smile. These guys from Fengsuan Lingyu only think that he is the native of Fengsuan Lingyu, and the famous Yidandi, but they never think that even though he has been in Fengsuan Lingyu for 200 years, he is just a passerby there. His hometown has always been on the earth. What are the secrets on earth? Yi Tian is silent a little later, looking at Gold Silk Glasses' male light smile, way. If you choose to cooperate, I can tell you everything, but if you don't want to cooperate, then you can only say sorry to you according to these mole ants on the earth. The man with gold glasses reached out and took off his glasses. After throwing them aside, there was a breath of cultivator in his body. Moreover, the breath quickly climbed to the 6th floor of the cave, which could crush Yi Tian. If you don't say anything, how can I be sure of the sincerity of you and those beings behind you? Yi Tian's corner of his eye twitches, and immediately his smile blooms, as if under the pressure of the other party, his contradictory attitude has been shaken. Fairy Gold Glasses male chuckles, looking at Yi Tian, slowly spit out a word. Fairy? Yi Tian's eyes suddenly changed and he looked at the man with gold glasses. You know, the word immortal is not just a myth in the square-inch spiritual realm, but represents the end of cultivation. Jade Pool above is the heavenly palace, after the heavenly palace is the immortal. What countless practitioners have been striving for is to ascend the heavenly palace and take another step to become an immortal. Even according to the news Yi Tian learned in Fengsuan Lingyu, the emergence of the Dark Age has a lot to do with immortals. It is rumored that the Dark Age was stirred up by many supreme beings in order to ascend the immortal road. However, in the square-inch spiritual realm, although there are so-called immortal meteorites like the field of life and death, there are also semi-immortal soldiers and immortal soldiers, but there has never been a real immortal. At least, even as Yi Tian was once the emperor of Dan, he did not know that there were immortals in the world. But now, this guy who came to the earth with spirit from the square-inch spirit realm, has said this word with profound meaning to him. Is it difficult for these people to think that there is an opportunity for the earth to become immortal? But if this is the case, how can these rare auras on earth be explained? How can the immortal land be such a withering weather? Yi Dandi, what's the answer? Is it sincere enough? Are you interested? At this time, the gold glasses man looked at Yi Tian and continued with a bright smile. This sincerity is really enough. Yi Tian nodded with a smile, but the next second, the flying sword hovering in the air suddenly moved and stabbed at the man with gold glasses. At the same time, he coldly said, "Unfortunately, it's not enough to make me willing to cooperate with you." The word immortal can really make practitioners have endless reverie in the same way. There are some defects in the way that the other side uses the secret technique to fuse the spirit body with the physical body, but it is also enough to make Yi Tian feel moved and feel that it can be used for reference and deduction, so as to find the safest way to make Ningyao's spirit body and the body found in the future perfectly integrate. Unfortunately, these people's methods are unacceptable to Yi Tian. From the fact that they chose to cooperate with the notorious prisoner, we can see the position of these people. From the words they said, we can see that they regarded the creatures on the earth as insignificant ants. Otherwise, it would not be unscrupulous to carry out such a tragic experiment at will. Although Yi Tian is not a gentleman, he also knows the truth of doing something and not doing something. Before he was a practitioner, he was also a Chinese on the earth. How could these masterminds, who were suspected to have stirred up the dark age filled with blood and tears, repeat the scene of the past on the earth? Since you don't cooperate, you are going to die. It's just a 5-story cave, and you want to compete with us. Do you think you are still the Yi Dan Emperor who let everyone look up to you in the square-inch spiritual realm? At the same time, the gold glasses man noticed that the flying sword was coming, and his body trembled. While avoiding the flying sword, he raised his hand and cut Yi Tian's body with 2 wind blades. Now I am not Dante, but I am still Yi Tian. Yi Tian smiles indifferently. His fist is waving and his blood is surging. It's like a vast river and sea. He suddenly hits the wind blade hard. In a flash, he blows the 2 incoming wind blades to pieces. You didn't use the Qingming formula? You transferred to other skills. This method is what you got on this star. The terrible breath of Emperor's fist runs, which makes the gold eyeglasses man on the 6th floor of the cave feel his blood surging. Facing Yi Tianshi, he has the feeling of looking up to the Emperor, which makes him cry out in amazement. He thought that Yi Tian's cultivation would be the most familiar Qingming Daoju, but now, Yi Tianshi's exhibition means have no breath of Qingming Daoju at all, and he had never encountered such a cultivation secret when he was in Fengsu and Lingyu in the past. Therefore, he instinctively thinks that this is the secret cultivation skill that Yi Tian found after he came to the earth. But he didn't know that this method was obtained by Yi Tian before he closed the door to refine Phoenix Nirvana. Besides the monk who gave this method to him and Ningyao, no one in the whole world knew this method. Yes or no, you can't leave here today. Yi Tian's fists vibrate, and his fist intention is firmly locked in the golden spectacle man. Every fist is like a flame burning the sky, which is extremely prosperous. You're just a 5-story cave. If you want to kill me, you're daydreaming. Gold glasses male mana surging, constantly block at the same time, sneer and confidence. Yi Tian doesn't say a word, and his fist is like burning fire. He attacks the golden cobra man fiercely. At the same time, the fierce sword also hovers in the void, just like the snake is staring at the prey, looking for the chance to strike a fatal blow. Earth avalanche. Not only that, Yi Tian in boxing at the same time, the same operation of mana, supplemented by Taoism, to create a variety of problems for the gold glasses man. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Yi Tian hit the gold eyeglasses man's chest with a fist, and beat him upside down. After 6 or 7 steps, he stabilized his figure, but along the corner of his mouth, there was still a trace of blood. What about the higher self? Before the spiritual body and the physical body are perfectly integrated, the 6th level of your cave is nothing more than that. Yi Tian looks at the man with gold glasses and sneers indifferently. In the course of the fight, he has found that although the other side has the strength of the 6 levels of the cave, there are still some running in between the spirit body and the body, so the strength is really better than him, but the strength is limited. Not to mention, compared with the man with gold glasses, he still has a fierce sword in his hand. He could clearly feel that the fierce soldier's flying sword was now conveying a strong desire to devour him. This guy's appetite is getting more and more tricky. The mountain people can't satisfy him anymore. Now he's hard to catch a cultivator, and he's also an expert on the 6th floor of the cave. How can he miss the chance to devour his vitality? So, even if he doesn't use magic power and mind to control, this guy will also look for the chance to give the golden eyeglasses man a fatal blow. By your means, I am more and more sure that there are unknowable secrets in this star, and our choice is right. In the eyes of men with gold glasses, in addition to the color of surprise, there is more joy. With this mysterious cultivation method, Tian shows his strength to compete with him on the 5th floor of the cave. Does this not further verify his conjecture that although this star lacks aura, it is really related to Immortals, as the legend says? I changed my mind, I will not kill you, I will save your life, and then slowly from your mouth to ask the secret of this star. Immediately, the gold glasses man sneered, his magic power surged, and his body suddenly disappeared from the ground. Too done. When Tian saw this, his eyes were immediately cold, and his mind spread out, covering the surrounding area. When he reached the 6th floor of the cave, he had the ability to use the evasion method. In addition to the earth evasion, there were fire evasion, water evasion, and wind evasion. When he used the evasion method against people in wartime, it was most difficult to prevent. If it is said that the fierce soldier flying sword is his mace, then the escape method is the big killer possessed by the man with golden glasses. Whoa! Almost at the moment when Tian's divine thoughts dispersed, the sound of soil disintegration suddenly came from behind him, and he felt that a fierce wind was attacking his back heart. Whoa! Tian noticed the strong wind coming, and without thinking, he jumped on the flying sword and quickly dodged. But the golden glasses man's attack was extremely fierce. Even if the speed of the flying sword was extremely fast, he still left a long bloodstain on his back. Not only that, when he looked back, he found that the body of the man with gold glasses disappeared from the air. The 6th floor of the cave is a good assassin. It's impossible for people to defend against the attack. Tian frowns slightly, and makes a quick decision in his heart. The blood-quenching skill runs quickly, and his accomplishments instantly break through from the 5th floor to the 6th floor of the cave. Although this method is harmful to the source, at this moment, Tian can't care so much about a real 6-story cave. After all, the original loss can be made up after recuperation, but if you lose your life, you can't make up for it. Whoa! Almost at the moment when Tian's breath broke through the 6th floor of the cave, the golden spectacle man attacked Tian from the underground with the help of the method of Tuduan. The fierce force formed by the combination of wind blades stabbed Tian's chest directly. But this time, Tian just like lost the reaction ability, unexpectedly stood in the same place, did not dodge. It's done! Seeing this, the man with golden glasses immediately passed a strong look of joy. Whoa! In a flash, the wind blade pierces Tian's chest, but what the golden eyeglasses man didn't expect is that after the wind blade pierces, he didn't see the expected bloodlight splashing. After the wind blade enters, it's like hitting into the air. No, it's a remnant. But the next second, the man with gold glasses realized that what he hit with his wind blade was not Tian's body, but his shadow left here. However, this is what he can't understand. Only Tian, who is on the 5th floor of the cave, can make a remnant image to confuse the enemy. Who at this time, the wind on the beach is blowing, the strong wind suddenly appears behind the man with gold glasses, and Tian's figure suddenly appears from the wind, holding a flying sword with cold eyes, stabbing at the back of the man with gold glasses. Just when the golden eyeglasses man took the hand, he took advantage of the opportunity of breaking through the 6 levels of the cave for a short time to perform the method of wind evasion and body wind, and made a remnant image with the help of the secret skill he had learned in the square-inch spiritual realm to confuse the sky. Whoa! The fierce soldier's flying sword is extremely greedy. As soon as he catches the chance, he is like a snake coming out of the hole. With the shock of Tian's mana, he stabs the golden cobra man's back with a sword at a speed that can't cover his ears. Poof! In a flash, the man with gold glasses felt a sharp pain in his back, and then a splash of blood came out. Without any hesitation, the man with golden glasses wriggles his body and wants to get rid of the flying sword. Then he uses the to-doing method to stay away from the battle group and consumes Yi Tian's time. According to his judgment, the reason why Yi Tian was able to escape from the wind is that he used some secret techniques to improve his cultivation for a short time. As far as he knows, these secret techniques often cause great loss to his body and the time is limited. As long as he can delay time to the end of time that Yi Tian's secret skill can maintain, then he is the ultimate winner. Well. However, as soon as his body struggled, he immediately felt that there was a terrible pulling force spreading in all directions along the part where the fierce soldier's flying sword pierced his body. This force was even so strong that he could not get rid of the 6th floor of the cave. Not only that, in addition to the terrible traction, he also felt that the vitality of his body was rushing along the wound towards the flying sword that pierced into his body. Even the spirit that had been connected with the body now appeared signs of loosening. It seemed that he would be swallowed by the strange flying sword together with the vitality at any time. Fierce soldier. Where did you get such a fierce soldier? What's the secret of this star? Gold glasses man read here, panic turned his head, looking at Yi Tian, incredible way. He can't believe that Yi Tian has not only got a powerful and peerless secret cultivation method on Earth, but also a secret skill to improve his cultivation for a short time. He even has a fierce weapon that even he can't resist. All this made him feel more and more that the Earth, as they speculated, was extremely secret. At the same time, he felt more and more panic in his heart. As a monk, he knows very well what will happen to him once he is locked by the murderous soldier's phagocytic chi machine. Whatever the secret is, it's none of your business. Yi Tian sneers indifferently, word by word, and his tone is indifferent. He didn't believe that this guy could survive. Please, let me go. I can exchange secrets with you. It's a big secret. I can tell you a lot of secrets that you didn't know even when you were in Fankenlingiu. As long as you will spare me, I will tell you all these. The gold glasses man struggles hard, but the fierce soldier's flying sword has a root in his body. No matter how hard he tries, he has no way to break free. He can only feel that his vitality is swallowed up by the fierce soldier's flying sword like a whale swallowing a cow's drink, which makes his chi weaker and weaker. He has no choice but to cry to Yi Tian. It's a pity that I'm not interested in your secrets. Yi Tian makes a voice indifferently. He knew that what the man with golden glasses knew was absolutely a great secret, even involving the ethereal immortal. But what he knew better was that he would only die faster if he knew such a secret before his cultivation strength reached the powerful level of enough to fight against all this. After all, when a person learns a secret, he will be curious. Once he is curious, he will explore it. In the square-inch spiritual realm, how many friars with outstanding talent, because of the word curiosity, should have a brilliant life, but become as short as a meteor across the sky? Cultivation seems to be superior, but in fact it is startling step by step. When you should be curious, you must be curious, but when you should not be curious, you must not be curious. If this choice is not made well, it will be a dead end. Moreover, he knew that the intersection between himself and the prisoner would never be the only one. Next time, when he is ready, he will try to find out the secret. The fierce soldier's flying sword is unique in its magical nature. In a short time, it turns into flying ash and the fierce howling of the golden spectacled man. After the body bones disappear, there is still a translucent figure on the blade, which is crazy twisting and struggling. It is this man's spirit body. Golden elixir. Yi Tian glanced at the spirit body. When he saw that there was a little golden light and shadow in the other person's elixir, he immediately judged the other person's cultivation state in the square-inch spirit realm. This discovery made him feel a little relieved. Before that, he was very worried that the other side's cultivation strength would be an old monster above the Jade Poo realm. But now it seems that although the power behind this guy controls the means to bring the spirit to the earth, it can't pass on two powerful monks for the time being. What's more, the spirit body of Jindan realm, after coming to earth, only erupts the strength of the 6th level of cave realm. This means that as long as he breaks through the 6th floor of the cave, even if he meets a similar Comer again, he will have the power of the First World War. Yi Tian, you are going to die hard, you are going to die hard. You don't know what a huge force you are provoking. Even if you are still Emperor Yi Tian, they will crush you like an ant. The spirit body struggles constantly, and then roars at Yi Tian in vain. Out. Yi Tianjian didn't want to spend more time with his opponent. He infused his magic power into the flying sword and stirred it gently. His spirit body immediately turned into countless light spots and disappeared into the fierce flying sword. Zheng! 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 With the absorption of spirit body, the fierce soldier's flying sword trembled and gave out a clear warble, which was full of joy. Moreover, as Yi Tian saw, the golden veins on the fierce soldier's flying sword had become a bit stronger than before, and the scope was slightly expanded. This scene makes Yi Tian's mind suddenly come up with an idea. Is the fragment of the flying sword suspected to be a semi-immortal soldier to repair himself by swallowing it? What's the secret of existence on Earth? There are such extraordinary semi-immortal soldiers. Even now some secret people in the square-inch spiritual realm have come to us. They even say that they have something to do with Immortals. Yi Tian flicked the flying sword to make sure that it didn't give birth to the heart of the master after swallowing the spirit. Then his eyes were full of confused murmurs. But he knows that, with his current strength, to be curious about these things will probably lead to the existence of unknowns, which is a dead end. He must restrain his curiosity, make himself strong first, and then have the chance to solve the puzzle. Go to see the altar, see if you can use it as a reference, and find out how to fuse the body and bones for Ningyao after he wakes up. Soon, Yi Tian made up his mind, and the imperial sword flew up. Along the corridor, he came to the depth of the base again. In the depth of the base, it's all bloody now. After the monsters got out of control, they killed all the living creatures in the base, and the blood flowed into a river. Give you a relief. Yi Tian looks at those blood-red eyes and stares at himself. He roars more like a beast than a human monster. With a low voice, he immediately raises his hand and flies his sword. With a clear sword, he sweeps the monster's neck and kills them all. This altar is a sacrifice of blood. When Yi Tian killed these monsters and went to the altar, he immediately smelled a strong and incomparable smell of blood. When he looked down, he was surprised to find that the reason why the whole body of the altar was bloody was not some paint, but a lot of blood. Not only that, in the many veins on the altar, there is more red blood flowing constantly, sending out a breath of evil. This method is really vicious. Yi Tian looked at the altar, which was more than 10 feet in circumference. His eyes twitched and he murmured to himself. According to his estimation, every time this altar is driven, I'm afraid it needs at least 10 people's blood to urge it. As for where the prisoner got so much blood, Yi Tian thought that with these people's way of doing things, he would not buy it from the blood bank. The truth behind it would be bloody. Yi Tianyuan's eye was shining. When he saw the blood flowing along the altar, there were many lines twinkling. Although it was dark, it still conveyed a mysterious and incomparable breath. Even after he saw a little, he felt dizzy and fainting. This array is extremely mysterious. It can't be developed by ordinary people. I'm afraid only the field master can create it. Even the field master may not be impossible. Yi Tian hastily closes Yuan Tian's eyes. After closing his eyes and breathing a little, he thinks in his heart. In the field of Fengsuan spirit, the attainments related to the field, like accomplishments, have a very detailed and strict division. The most elementary is the field master like Yi Tian now. Further, it is the field master, then the field master. Further up, it is the field master, and then the field master. Another higher level of field master can be counted by one slap. As for the field master, he is the supreme master who takes the stars as the array and all things as the chessboard. When Yi Tian was in the square-inch spirit field, he only heard about it in the rumor and never saw one. The power of this black hand is unimaginable and inestimable. I'm afraid that even with my position and strength in the square-inch spiritual realm, I can't compete with this power at all. This scene let Yi Tian secretly frightened. Such a huge force, he has been in Fengsuan Lingyu for 200 years, but he didn't even find a trace. It can be seen that the other party is deeply hidden and well organized. Not only that, but now he was lucky that he restrained his curiosity and didn't let the man with golden glasses say the person behind the scenes who dominated all this. Otherwise, if the other person was really the powerful existence related to the Dark Age in his imagination. I'm afraid that even if we are separated from each other, as long as we recite each other's name in our hearts, we will be noticed by him. At that time, I'm afraid there will be endless troubles and pursuits waiting for us. After breathing for a moment, Tian recorded all the fields where the altar was set up, and immediately the flying sword ran to destroy the altar completely. Then he went around the base to see if there was anything left in the base. Soon after, Tian came to an alloy door with a huge turntable and code lock. He scanned carefully and found that there was no sign of life behind the alloy door. Instead, there were boxes and shelves, which should be no doubt in the warehouse. Then he ran the flying sword, brushed a few swords, cut the alloy door and walked in. So many boxes hiss. Tian walks into the warehouse and looks at the 10 big boxes on the ground. After sweeping his eyes, he cuts the wooden box with a sword at will. The sawdust flies, and a golden light immediately blooms. Tian can't help but take a breath of air. I saw, on the ground, there was a box full of 1 kilogram gold bars in it. The yellow gold bars were arranged together, and the light was brilliant, which made people dizzy. Even if Tian is not interested in money and worries about it, he can't help but wonder how rich he is. However, he was not surprised by this. After all, this kind of killer organization is doing business without capital. Moreover, these killers under the opponent are so cruel that they don't regard their lives as their lives. It's normal to accumulate such a large family fortune. Look what's on the shelf. Tianchen read around and collected all the gold into the storage ring. Then he went to the wooden shelf and glanced at it. He found that there were all kinds of jewelry and jade on it, and there were 4 pieces of inferior spirit jade. Unfortunately, it's not the most suitable fire attribute Lingyu. Otherwise, with the help of 4 Lingyu, I may be able to break through to the 6th floor of the cave. Tian put Lingyu in the ring inside. But soon he chuckled and shook his head. Now he is a bit of a long wangshu. There are very few Lingyu on the earth. It's very good to find 4. Delingden Tian Lingden. Immediately, Tian found several porcelain vases on the wooden frame. When he opened them, he found that there were 10 porcelain vases containing Delingden, while in the other porcelain vases, there was a kind of elixir that he could not recognize, but was obviously stronger than Delingden, which should be a further Tianlingden. There is a magic pill in Tiangong's hand. Is there any trade between them and Qingming sect? After Tian put the porcelain bottle into the storage ring, he couldn't help wondering. You know, in order to maintain a transcendent position, Qingming sect controlled Tianlingden very closely, so it was easy not to sell it. But now, he found one in Tiangong's base, which is shocking. However, at the moment, he did not know whether the prisoner paid a high price to get the elixir from Qingmingzong, or whether they reached some kind of agreement and cooperation. Do Hongshi. Tian shakes his head, shakes off these thoughts and opens a brocade box on the shelf. When he sees the crystal-clear mineral-like red bean in it, but it emits faint fragrance, his face immediately shows an indescribable color of ecstasy. Find Do Hongshi and get 9-tail grass from Mingfong, then he can refine a Guiyuan pill. At that time, he can steadily break through the 6 layers of the cave, and his strength will be greatly improved. Even if he meets the Comer again, he doesn't need to be passive like this time. After going back, ask the pharmacist again to see if he knows the base of Tiangu and other places. Leaf Day will be in red stone income ring, in the heart can't help but give birth to an idea. The harvest was so great that even if the gold was removed, the value of the elixir could not be estimated, let alone the important materials for refining Guiyuan pill. Under such circumstances, it's hard for him not to think about robbing another base of Tiangong. Tianshenian glances around to make sure that there is nothing in the warehouse. Then he turns around and leaves. He finds the ammunition depot and detonates the bomb inside. Then he comes to the monitoring room and flies to the sea with the man on duty who is still in a coma. Boom boom in an instant, along the sea immediately came a violent roar, followed by the whole island was shrouded in raging flames, turned into a sea of fire. Tiangu has stored a lot of gasoline and weapons on the island. After a fire, all traces they left here will be completely dissipated. Even if some monsters rush out of the base and escape on the island, they will surely die in the sea of fire, unable to harm the world. How did the island explode? The fierce roar made the comatose attendant wake up abruptly. When he saw the raging fire on the island, Ji Lingling shivered. He could not help but lost his voice and exclaimed. When he felt chilly under his body, he turned to see that he was caught by Yi Tian and flew into the sky. His face suddenly turned pale, as if he had been strangled by someone. He cried, "Oh my God." At this moment, he finally understood how Yi Tian sneaked into the base under heavy monitoring, because people didn't come here by boat or by helicopter, but by sword. With such a small and fast target, their monitoring is good, but how can they find it? Even if captured, at most, it would be thought that it was a seabird who chose to rest on the island. Be a new man, but it's better not to be evil. Otherwise, I won't spare you. After a long time, when the flying sword arrives at the coast, Yi Tian controls the landing of the flying sword and throws the person on duty to the ground. There is no trace of Taoist art in this guy's body, and there is no evil spirit left by murder. Although he works with Tiangong, he is not guilty to death. Yi Tian always does things right and wrong. Thank you God, thank you God. From now on, I will be a new man. The person on duty couldn't help but kneel down and kowtow to Yi Tian like a chicken pecking rice. Zheng. Kowtow, he suddenly heard a sword. When he raised his head, saw that Yi Tian had already used the flying sword to fly to the sky. Just in the blink of an eye, people turned into a small black spot. It's really a fairy. Looking at this scene, the person on duty sat on the ground with his lips moving and murmuring, only feeling that what happened tonight was like an incredible dream. A moment later, Yi Tian went back to the balcony outside the hotel building. When he appeared out of the balcony window, he saw that although it was early in the morning, Qin Luotian did not sleep, but stood anxiously on the balcony. When he saw him, the nervous color on his face immediately turned into a smile. What's wrong with staying up so late and being so nervous? Yi Tian steadily falls behind the balcony, looking at Qin Luotian's nervous inquiry. No. Qin Luotian shook his head in a hurry, and then his face was a little shy. She has been waiting for herself on the balcony for fear of any accident. Seeing Qin Luo's expression, Yi Tian immediately scolds himself for being stupid. Don't worry. I'll be fine. You can rest early in the future. You don't have to wait for me. Thinking of this, Yi Tian's heart is warm, and his mouth is curved. He reaches out and holds Qin Luotian's hand in a soft voice. Now that his parents have passed away, it's the first time that he has felt that someone close to him is worrying about himself. All I know is that I can't help thinking. Qin Luotian blushed and shook his head in confusion. He was both shy and happy. His voice was like a gnat. Then wait for me, always wait for me. Yi Tian chuckles, raises his hand and caresses Qin Luotian's warm cheek. Qin Luotian is so shy that he nods, and then nestles in Yi Tian's arms, hoping to let time stay at this moment, so that the two people who are hugging each other can never be separated in this life. 3 days, fleeting. In these 3 days, Yi Tian and Qin Luo God are naturally inexhaustible love. No matter what they do, Qin Luo God holds Yi Tian's hand tightly, as if for fear that Yi Tian will disappear as soon as they let go. Yi Tian didn't resist this. He knew that it was Qin Luo's concern for him. And in addition to the feelings between the two, Li Dazhuang also used the secret surgery in Yi Tian, completely recovered and discharged. If Qin Luotian didn't make a big donation to the hospital and put out a large amount of sealing fee, I'm afraid those medical staff would have to take Li Dazhuang as a mouse and study him well. In these days, Yi Tian also got more information from the pharmacist. Tiangong, the killer organization, is extremely ancient and has been active in China and all over the world. They have been active behind the changes of many dynasties, the rise and fall of kingdoms, and modern wars. However, these people are very good at hiding themselves, so the world simply does not know these secrets. The killer's tentacles touch every corner of the world. In addition to China, the base they built is also an island outside the United States, Europe, Oceania and other places, as well as the cold and mysterious places like the North and South Poles. Unfortunately, because Tiangong is secretive, pharmacists only know about the existence of these bases, but they don't know the specific location of these bases or where they are. This news makes Yi Tian feel a little disappointed. He originally planned to use Guiyuan pill to break through the 6th floor of the cave and explore the bases of Tiangong. But now, it seems that this plan will be shelved for the time being to see if he can find a suitable opportunity in the future. At 9 p.m. on the third day, Tian took Qin Luotian to the bar in the West City. Meng Fang is extremely punctual. When Tian arrives at the bar, he has been waiting outside the bar. I've got the materials ready, but I'm going to go to Qijia of Baihua Valley in East Fujian for help. See ho ho, Meng Fang is concise, and then some nervous to Tian Wei. Yi Xiaoyu, are you sure you can refine the elixir? The materials of Tianlingdan are extremely precious. In the past 3 days, he has tried every means to get all the materials together until he has gone bankrupt. Once the refining fails, all his efforts will be wasted. If it was Chen Xingfeng, he would have believed it, but although Tian inherited Chen Xingfeng's alchemy, he really couldn't know his alchemy attainments. Brother Meng, don't worry. If I can't refine it and destroy your materials, I'll compensate you one more. The leaf day hears a sound, can however a smile, magnanimous way. In the past 3 days, he has carefully analyzed the elixir in his hand and determined the refining method. If with his attainments of Dante, this kind of ordinary pills fail to be refined, it could be killed. Brother Yi, you think so much. I didn't mean that. Meng Fang thought Tian was thinking too much. He waved his hand in a hurry and wanted to explain. Brother Meng, what I said is true. If I fail, I'll pay you one. Tian smiles and shakes his head, interrupts Meng Fang's words, then takes out the elixir from the warehouse and says, look what it is. Heavenly elixir. Meng Fang takes the porcelain bottle in doubt, opens the cork and just takes a look. He is shocked and makes a sound immediately. Then he looks at Tian in disbelief. He can't believe that he has worked hard, and he doesn't know how many years he has been planning to get the Tianlingdan. Tian, a young man, has one in his hand. I got it by fluke these days, but I have found out the refining method. I can rest assured that if I fail, I will compensate you for this one. Of course, if you want this one, I can give it to you directly, and you can give me the material. Tian explained with a faint smile, then looked at Meng Fang and said, but with respect, the efficacy of this elixir can only be 70% of the elixir I refined. After you take it, the probability of breakthrough is 5 to 5, but the elixir I refined is 100% breakthrough. This little guy is so confident. Meng Fang is startled and looks at Tian in shock. Apart from the extremely rare refining materials and the strict control of Qingming sex quantity, the other reason why Tianlingdan is precious is that the chance of taking Tianlingdan to breakthrough is not too high. Some people can break through 1, but some people can't break through 2 or 3. However, with the precious degree of the elixir, even if it is spent all one's life, there are several people who have accumulated enough materials for 2 or 3. Now, Tian even says that his Tianlingdan has made a 100% breakthrough. How can he not make people tremble? How can he not doubt that Tian is not afraid of tigers and bragging? I've already said what I said. Whether you believe it or not, Brother Meng, please consider for yourself. Tian chuckles and calms down. In the past few days, he not only found out the refining method of Tianlingdan, but also found out that the chicken thief of Qingming sect was the best. When refining Tianlingdan, he deliberately used a trick to make mistakes in the operation of the furnace. In this way, although the pill can be refined, its efficacy is extremely limited. There is no way for people taking Tianlingdan to make a breakthrough. In this way, those who did not break through the top of the heaven level had to continue to work hard for Qingmingzong. Moreover, if the number of people on Tianji Mountain does not go up, it will not shake Qingming sect's position of dominating 3 sects and 6 sections. I believe in Brother Chen, so I choose to believe in you. Meng Fang's eyes changed and made a decision quickly. Although he doesn't know where Tian's confidence comes from, he thinks that Tian is not the one who speaks wildly. He really has confidence in his heart. Okay, let Lao Meng take us to Baihua Valley. The Leaf Day hears speech, light smile looking at to put away. Now Qin Luotian and he are in love. He can't bear to leave Qin Luotian alone in a hotel in western Fujian. Not only that, Qin Luotian has already set foot on the road of cultivation. Building a car behind closed doors is not the way of cultivation. He wants to bring Qin Luotian into contact with the world of practitioners. In this way, she can have enough cultivation experience even if she is not around one day. Meng Fong nodded, then took Yi Tian and Qin Luoshan to the car that had been arranged, and rushed to Baihua Valley. Along the way, Meng Fong introduced to Yi Tian the situation of the family in Baihua Valley. Qi family is a family of cultivation. Although its strength is not as strong as that of the 3 schools and 6 schools, the old master of Qi family of the previous generation is a truly strange person. He is not only a strong man of heaven level, but also has a wide range of friends, and the strength of refining pills is extremely extraordinary. Although it is not as good as Chunqing things, except Tianlingdan, other pills are also easy to catch. What's more, Qi's reward for refining pills is very low. He even helps to refine pills free of charge when he meets people from the mountains who agree with him. Moreover, he is eager for justice. When some people from the mountains are in trouble, he will lend a helping hand. In this way, the Qi family maintained a detached position among the people in the mountain. Although they are not among the 3 sects and 6 sects, few people are willing to offend the Qi family. If they offend the Qi family, one day they will be killed by a mountain man who has received the favor of the Qi family. When you don't pay attention, they will repay the kindness of the Qi family. And because of this detached position, there are many people in Fujian province and even surrounding mountains. When they encounter disputes, they will come to Qi family to find the master of Qi family to help justice, and he never disappointments. In addition, unlike other clans and families, the Qijia family in Baihua Valley does not join the world. On the contrary, they have a very high status in the hearts of local ordinary people, because when Qi was alive, he often used pills to treat some local patients with complicated diseases that could not be treated by the hospital, so that they could recover. Moreover, just as he treats the mountain people, if he meets those poor people, he will not receive any reward. What's more, the Qi family didn't resort to this. They were arrogant and domineering. Under the restraint of the Qi master, the Qi family's disciples followed the rules and were very reasonable. They never bullied the good or disturbed the local people. Because of all these, the Qi family has a very strong appeal among ordinary people and mountain people in eastern Fujian. It's a pity that Mr. Qi passed away last year. Otherwise, you and he might be best friends. Meng Fong finished talking about the situation of the family in Baihua Valley, and sighed to Yi Tian. This is really a rare mountain man. Yi Tian nodded slightly, and he had some admiration for him. Although he met many people on the mountain, he only had 3 or 2 people like this Qi old man. Galloping all night, at dawn, the party arrived at Baihua Valley. To Yi Tian's surprise and Qin Luoshan's surprise, Baihua Valley is not like the Imo family in Qiyun Mountain. Its buildings are antique, but very modern. Besides, Baihua Valley is more like a tourist attraction than a residence. In the location of Guku, there are not only parking lots, but also supermarkets, convenience stores and even hotels. However, the name of Baihua Valley is not a false name. Looking around, the valley is full of colorful flowers. It seems that these buildings are all located on a cluster of flowers. At the mouth of the valley, there stands a huge stone tablet with the 3 characters of 100 Flowers Valley carved on it. It is vigorous and powerful. What is particularly striking is that at the end of the inscription, it says Lu Bufan. You know, Lu Bufan is the first one among the mountain people. It's easy to imagine the meaning of his inscription. I'm afraid some mountain people who want to find the bad luck in Baihua Valley will be scared to run away as long as they see the stone tablet. Baihua Valley has never made enemies. It has a good relationship with Sanzangliaman. In addition to the relationship with Master Qi, this is Lu Bufan's only monument. Meng Fong saw Yi Tian looking at the stone tablet and explained immediately. It's a big face for the whole family. Yi Tian smiles and nods, then follows Meng Fong and goes to the entrance of Baihua Valley. Why is it so messy? But as soon as he got to the mouth of the valley, Yi Tian saw that many people gathered at the entrance of the valley and were pointing out. Yi Tian took a close look, his brow could not help wrinkling, and he looked at Meng Fong with some doubts. At the entrance, there was a 5 or 6-year-old girl on her knees. She was pale, ragged and shaky. She seemed to fall to the ground at any time. Next to the little girl was a middle-aged woman lying quietly on the mat, her eyes closed, her lips blue and her breath weak. Mr. Meng, isn't it just a matter of justice? What's going on? Qin Luogod took a pity look at the little girl, then lowered his voice and asked Meng Fong in a low voice. That's not right. In the past, Baihua Valley was not like this. Maybe, is there something we don't know? Meng Fong was also confused and didn't understand that there would be such a scene at the mouth of the valley. Eager for justice? That's the old yellow calendar. Now Baihua Valley, you can't come in without money. They only treat the rich, regardless of the poor's life and death. No way. Who let the poor's life cheap, worthless? The child, even if he kneels down here, will not be taken care of. The poor can't afford the medicine of Bai Wagu now. It's better when Master Qi is alive. Hearing their conversation, some onlookers around sighed inside. After Master Qi left, the Qi family has changed now. Yi Tian shakes his head slightly, but he also thinks it's human nature. After all, you can't force others to do good deeds. Baihua Valley doesn't do charity. It's their freedom to see a doctor for anyone. Little thing, get out of here. If you die here, you will pollute our family's land. But just then, along the Baihua Valley, several young men in uniform came. After a cursing, 2 of them went to drag the little girl kneeling on the ground, and 2 of them grabbed the comatose woman on the ground and wanted to lift her up and throw her into the distance. What are you doing? Stop it. Seeing this scene, Qin Luoshan rushed forward, pulled the little girl into his arms, looked at the young people and said in a deep voice. This is the place where we all live. What are we going to do? Do we need to tell you? Several young people see this, looking at Qin Luoshan coldly. The vision is not good. It's a good place for you to have a family, but she's just a child. How can you have the heart to do such a thing to a child? Qin Luoshan frowned and said again. He, you want to help her, right? The child's mother has liver cancer. She has to rely on our Baihuagu's medicine to kill her. If you want to help her, take out $1 million. I promise to invite her into the hotel immediately and serve her with good food and drink. With a cold voice, the young man glanced up and down at her again, and then said with a ferocious smile, however, if you can't get so much money, I advise you to get out of here as soon as possible and don't get involved here. 1 pill $1 million. Although Qin Luoshan was born in the Qin family and was used to seeing a lot of money, he was still stunned when he heard about $1 million pills. How can ordinary people afford such pills? And according to the young man, pills can only be used for hanging. If 1 pill is finished, it will cost another $1 million to buy. What? Can't you take it out? I advise you to be less involved in these matters. The young man saw Qin Luogod's appearance, disdain smile, way. 100. Hearing this, Qin Luoshan's face sank and he immediately felt for his bank card. $1 million, though many cannot see her eyes. Help them to get the best room in the hotel, we'll take care of all the expenses. But at this time, Yi Tian came to Qin Luoshan, squeezed her hand, looked at the young man and said faintly. How can I believe empty talk? The young man swept a few eyes toward Yi Tian and said. Qi Yun and I are friends. Do you want me to give him a call? But at this time, Meng Fong took out a small and exquisite jade sign from his pocket and shook it at the young man, and said faintly. I have no eyes. I can't see that there is a senior coming to Qijia. I'm sorry. As soon as the young leader saw the sign, he immediately put on a respectful smile, apologized to Meng Fong, and then said to the people behind him, go and make a room for this little thing and her mother in the hotel. No, I won't go. I want to get medicine for my mother. If I can't get medicine, I'll kneel here all the time. But just then, the little girl turned her head and shook her head at Yi Tian. Although her big eyes were full of tears, her eyes were full of perseverance. It seemed that as long as she could save her mother, she would never give up even if she knelt down to the end of time. Even Yi Tian can't help but be moved by his perseverance. At a young age, the heart and nature have been tough to such a degree, which is really rare. Well behaved, obedient, rest assured to go to the hotel. When I come out, I will help you cure your mother's disease. Yi Tian is a little silent. Then he goes to the little girl and rubs her head. Although his voice is not big, there is a kind of firmness that can penetrate the deepest part of the heart, so that the little girl's eyes give birth to a hope. And the young man next to him, who was in charge of the whole family, turned his lips with disdain and scoffed. This guy is not much older than himself. Even if he is powerful, how powerful can he be? And if he is so powerful, how can he run to manage his family? Take her to the hotel and get her something to eat. We'll pay for all the expenses. This guy's expression naturally falls into Yi Tian's eyes, but Yi Tian doesn't bother to pay attention to it, looking at his light way. Well, I will treat her well and give her the best room and the best food. The young man's face was full of friendly smile, but his heart was full of sneers. He made up his mind to kill Yi Tian and let these guys who like to be good people give a lot of blood. Thank you, big brother. I'm waiting for you. When the little girl was taken to the hotel by the young people, she suddenly turned her head and looked at Yi Tian, looking forward and praying. Don't worry, I'll come later. Yi Tian nodded to the little girl with a smile, and his tone was as firm as ever. Ladies and gentlemen, are you going into the valley by yourself, or shall we take you in? At this time, the leader of the young man, is a smile on his face looking at Yi Tian and others, the way. I know the way in the valley. I can go by myself. Meng Fong shakes his head and refuses the young man's proposal. Then he takes the jade card, walks into Baihua Valley with Yi Tian and Qin Luotian, and walks to a villa halfway up the mountain. There's nothing wrong with asking for money for medical treatment. It's nothing wrong not to pay for it. I just can't get used to their attitude. After entering Baihua Valley, Qin Luotian explained, and then carefully looked at Yi Tian, some worried. Yi Tian, I won't give you any trouble, will I? They came to the Baihua Valley to use the fire of the Qi family. She was very worried about the conflict between Yi Tian and the Qi family because of her own affairs. If the Qi family didn't use the fire of the Qi family, it would be troublesome. Don't worry, you've done the right thing. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head. If Qin Luotian sees the scene just now and is indifferent, he will be really cold-hearted. Qin Luotian's doing so shows that she is kind. As for trouble, Yi Tian was never afraid of any trouble. In the past, the Qi family was not like this. Mr. Qi had only been away for 1 year. How did he become what he is now? Meng Fong looks at Yi Tian and Qin Luogod awkwardly and murmurs. He had just boasted about the family of Bai Wagu in front of them, but when he came here, he came across such a scene. It really felt like his face was slapped. People always change. It's a matter of course that they want money for the family's treatment. They don't do charity. Let alone 1 million yuan for a medicine, it doesn't matter if they want 10 million yuan. Brother Meng, you don't have to think much. Yi Tian waved his hand, indicating that Meng Fong didn't have to feel guilty because of these. In fact, his view is consistent with that of Qin Luotian. Family management is not a benevolent institution. He can't force others to do good deeds. He clearly sets a price. He can buy whatever he likes and leave if he doesn't like. But he just can't bear the attitude of these people towards a child like an ant. After all, it's okay not to do good, but at least you have to look like a person, right? Meng Fong nodded with a bitter smile, but couldn't help sighing. In this world, the most easily changed thing is indeed the human heart. When Mr. Qi was alive, all the people in the Qi family seemed to be kind and kind-hearted. However, when no one was around, the rest of the Qi family would turn their faces like a book. They would change as soon as they said they would. At the moment, he only hopes that his old friends in the past can still be the same as they were when they knew each other, not like the 100-Flower Valley now. Haha, brother Meng, long time no see. Meng Fong took Yi Tian and Qin Luotian to the door of the villa. Along the way, a middle-aged man came out. He seemed to have been waiting at the door for a long time. When he saw Meng Fong, he laughed heartily, and then he gave him a bear hug. Yes, long time no see. Meng Fong nodded with a smile and said, Brother Qiyun, I've come here for an invitation. I want to use your local fire to make 2 batches of pills. Of course, I won't use it for nothing. Let's follow the rules, or follow the old rules before your family. I'll pay you 200,000 yuan for 1 hour's fire. The fire of Qi family is also 20,000 hours. It's really expensive. Hearing this, Yi Tian can't help laughing. These cultivation families with earthfire can make a lot of money only by earthfire. Brother Meng. But at this time, the look on Qi Yun's face suddenly became awkward and strange. With two dry smiles, he said with some helplessness and indignation, "The rules of our Qi family have been changed. The use of ground fire is no longer the price, but calculated according to the value of your refined pills and weapons. A wisp is charged according to 1/10 of the value of pills and weapons." 1/10 of the value of refining goods with the help of ground fire? Isn't this the notorious tithe in history? Qin Luotian was stunned. She thought that it would be a black heart to collect 200,000 yuan in an hour. But she didn't expect that the whole family was more black than she thought. Even the notorious tax in medieval Europe was paid. Let alone Qin Luo God, Yi Tian also lost his mind for a while. He thought that the Mo family in Qiyun Mountain was dark enough, but now it seems that he is still too young. There is no darkest thing in the world, only darker. 1/10. Brother Qi, this. Meng Fong is also confused. After a long time, he looks at Qi Yun, and can't organize a complete sentence. You know, what he wants Yi Tian to help refine is a heavenly elixir. According to the rule of Qi family, he wants to give 1/10 of the heavenly elixir to Qi family. But the heavenly elixir is so valuable, even if it's only 1/10, it's absolutely a sky-high price. Brother Meng, I'm really sorry. This rule is set by elder brother. I also think it's very unreasonable, but I can't say anything more. Qi Yun gave a wry smile and arched his hand to Meng Fong with shame. Then his eyes changed and he said frankly, "Well, no matter what kind of pills you want to make, Brother Meng, I'll give you half of the reward you want to give the whole family." Qi Yun is brave enough. When Yi Tian heard the speech, he could not help looking at Qi Yun more and nodding slightly. From Qi Yun's words, he really saw the appearance of the former benevolence and righteousness of the Qi family. "No, if I ask you to help me, I'm afraid it will make you bleed a lot." Meng Fong shook his head with a bitter smile and said slowly, "What pills do you want to make? So valuable?" When Qi Yun heard this, he was startled. He couldn't help but make a bold guess in his heart. He immediately said, "Is it?" "Yes, it's Tianlingdan." Meng Fong was very trusting of Qi Yun and nodded freely. "I really want to refine the elixir." "Congratulations, Brother Meng. You've got what you want. I just don't know where the alchemist who helped you make pills is. I'd like to ask Brother Meng to introduce me. Maybe I'll trouble him in the future." Qi Yunsi took a breath of cold air and looked around Meng Fong's body, then he was confused. "It's Yi Xiaoyu who helped me make the elixir." Meng Fong turns over to introduce Qi Yun. "He's Brother Meng, the Dan master you hired?" Qi Yun is dull. He didn't see Tian and Qin Luotian behind Meng Fong just now, but he thinks that they are the descendants of Meng Fong. After all, it's not a small matter to refine Tianlingdan. The alchemist can't do it at all. He thinks that the alchemist who can refine Tianlingdan may be white-bearded, but Yi Tian's face looks like a schoolboy. "I'm a student." If he didn't know that Meng Fong was magnanimous, he never lied, and he didn't like to joke. He would almost think that Meng Fong was joking with himself. "Not bad." Meng Fong nodded frankly. "Excuse me." Hearing this, Qi Yun wakes up and hugs Yi Tian. Then he looks bitter and says with a bitter smile, "But it's really troublesome. Although I have a little wealth, 1/10 of a heavenly elixir is really valuable." "Wrong, not one, but two. What I'm going to refine this time is another pill with a value no less than Tianlingdan." Yi Tian shook his head with a smile and said slowly. As a matter of fact, he has already said that the value of Guiyuan pill is far more than that of Tianling pill, and they can't be compared at all. But Yi Tian knows that even if he says it, Qi Yun will not believe it, so he is too lazy to emphasize it. Hiss. Qi Yun smells speech, draw a cold air, look at Yi Tian doubtfully. At Yi Tian's age, he said that he was a master of alchemy, which was enough to shock him. But now, Yi Tian even said that he wanted to make another elixir whose value was no less than that of the elixir. How could he not be shocked? But in addition, he also had a lot of doubts in his heart, because Tianlingdan was the rarest and most valuable pill among the people in the mountain. He really couldn't think of any other pill that could be compared with Tian. How can I afford 1/10 of the 2 pills, Brother Qi? Is there really no other way? Meng Fong looks at Qi Yun bitterly and says slowly. The conditions of governing the family were too harsh, but apart from governing the family, he really didn't know where there was fire. I think about it. Qi Yun was a little silent, then his eyes lit up, patted his thigh, and said, Qi family can use ground fire without money, so well, Brother Meng, I'll take you to Huafeng and say that you are the alchemists I invited to help alchemy. But you should seize the time, train well and leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm worried that something will happen. Brother Qi, how interesting is that? Meng Fong was stunned and waved his hand. Brother Meng, what are you doing with these outsider words in your relationship with me? Qi Yun waved his hand and said, it shouldn't be too late. I'll take you there as soon as possible while no one is using the Huafeng. Qi Yun is also an acute son. He says he will go. Soon, he takes Yi Tian and his party to Huafeng. Brother Qi, let me say something I shouldn't say. How did your Qi family become like this now? It's only a year since Qi's death. Before his bones are cold, the Qi family has changed so much. He's underground, and he won't be at ease, will he? On the way, Meng Fong looks at Qi Yun and asks in a suspicious voice. Now Qi family is in charge of my elder brother Qi Wen. He said that Qi family has no old man, and the strongest one is just the top of the prefecture level. The family status is in danger, so we must accumulate resources and try to find another Tian class, or choose one of the 3 sects and 6 sects to rely on. Today, he invited people from Tai sect to visit Qi family. Now I'm afraid he's meeting guests. There are people who complain, but the elder brother is the head of the family after all. Qi Yun sighed with a bitter smile and explained slowly. I don't know much about Qi family, but as far as I know, it seems that the reason why Qi family is able to survive today is not Qi master's heavenly cultivation, but Qi family's aloof status, and the huge relationship of internet cafes that Shirin doesn't intend to repay. If we use this method to seek resources to break through the celestial pole, we will destroy the good reputation created by the Qi master for the Qi family. As for relying on the 3 schools and 6 schools, it is even more unwise, and the Qi family's transcendence will no longer exist. Yi Tian hears the sound, the vision changed, looking at Qi Yun lightway. My little brother has a brilliant eye, just like I thought. It's a pity that my elder brother doesn't think so. The direction of Qi's family can only be arranged according to his hospital. Qi Yun smell speech, surprised to see Yi Tian one eye, in for Yi Tian small age, unexpectedly analysis so to the point and praise at the same time, his more eye smile shook his head, slowly way. Yi Tian is silent. He looks at Qi Yun, and then at the 100-flower valley around him. He sighs in his heart. According to the current situation of Qi family, as far as he feels, it is estimated that the 100-flower valley will no longer exist in a short time. Cooperating with Sanzangliaman, these families have been focusing on Qi family for many years. They are worried that they can't find a reason to clean up. Qi family now takes the initiative to make friends with one of them. Isn't this handing over their handle to others? If you seek the skin of a tiger, you will be killed by the tiger. I'll bring Dan Master to Huafeng to make pills. I'll make arrangements. Don't let people come to Huafeng for a while. While speaking, the 3 have already arrived at the fire square. Qi Yun looks at the Qi family who was guarding the fire square and says faintly. Uncle Lu, please write down on this list what pills you want to make and how long it will take. The Qi family heard the speech, quickly took out a list and put it in front of Qi Yun. Why so much trouble? Qi Yun frowned for a while, doubting voice way. The rules just set by the owner of the family. The Qi family explained in a hurry. He said that in the future, we can only use the ground fire 3 times a year. If we use the ground fire more than this time, we also need to bear the cost of using the ground fire as an outsider. The Qi family can only use the ground fire 3 times a year, otherwise, they will have to charge together with outsiders. Yi Tian hears this, a time also dull, don't know what to say. Qi Wen's rule is a good one to avoid making people in Qi family waste too much, but it is obviously too harsh for people of the same race. As far as Yi Tian knows, both good alchemists and alchemists are made of materials and experience. It's not enough to use the earth fire 3 times a year. At the beginning, when he was in the blessed land of Qingming and just entered the Dan Road, he refined more than 10 times a day. If he followed the method of Qi family, he would have to save 4 or 5 years to save so many times. In this case, it's not easy for people who want the Qin family to be successful in Dan Dao or Lian Qi. But what he has to admit is that Qi Wen is really cruel, not only to outsiders, but also to his own family.
Good, I'll register right now. Qi Yun, too, shook his head. Then he took the book and wrote down his name on it.
When it came to the use of Dihua, he hesitated for a moment and wrote down the 7 words refining to Delingdon.
Uncle Lu, please come inside. After putting away the pamphlet, the young man quickly opened the gate of Huafeng.
Qi Yin nodded to Yi Tian and others, then took them into the fire square. Brother Qi, I'm really sorry for wasting your chance to use Dihua. You can rest assured that when brother breaks the sky level, he will find a way to compensate you. After the door is closed, Meng Fan looks at Qi Yun embarrassed and apologizes.
Brother Meng, don't say that.
My accomplishments are far away, and I can't use earth fire for the time being. Qi Yun waved his hand with a bright smile, then sighed and murmured, Brother, this is to wipe out the possibility of my Qi family's emergence of Dan Master and Weapon Refiner. Yi Tian does not respond to Qi Yun's words, but glances at the fire square.
Qijia's Huafeng is similar to Majia's Dihua cave in layout.
It is a space, and then there is a beast head on the ground to control Dihua. I like to be quiet and undisturbed when I'm alchemy.
No matter what you think is wrong, don't talk to me.
Yi Tian glanced at the crowd, and then went to the head of the earth fire beast.
I'm not very old.
I'll see if you really have such a great ability, or if you're pretending here. When Qi Yun hears Yi Tian's words, he immediately introduces the way to control the fire beast head for Yi Tian, and intends to take this opportunity to see Yi Tian's level. If this guy can't even control the fire, he can let Meng Fan directly kick the young man out, so as not to waste materials.
Tai.
At this time, Yi Tian had already come to the head of the beast, and gently brushed his hand toward the head of the beast. A flame immediately rose, with red and white colors. As soon as the fire appeared, the situation of the fire was under control. This guy is not very old, but he's really good at controlling the fire. Qi Yun saw this scene, immediately nodded slightly, looked at Yi Tian's eyes, a little more praise. As a Qi family member, he naturally witnessed the process of many alchemists and weapon refiners refining pills and weapons. But as far as he can see, he is the first one who can adjust the fire of the earth fire to such a perfect level when it is opened, just like Yi Tian. At the same time, Yi Tian has taken out the Dan furnace, preheating at the same time, to put a hand-weigh material. Meng Fan hears that he has not yet given the materials to Yi Tian. He quickly takes off his backpack and gives all the materials for refining Tianlingdon to Yi Tian.
In addition, he also puts Jueiko beside Yi Tian. Yi Tian took the materials and scanned them.
After confirming that they were indeed the materials for refining Tianlingdon, he immediately began processing, slicing, rolling out juice, or selecting only petals and rhizomes. The skillful action is like refining thousands of times, flowing with a kind of amazing beauty.
Is this young man, at his age, already a master of Dantao?
Qi Yun looked at Yi Tian's skillful method of processing medicinal materials. His doubts had been dispelled, and he was full of praise. He is familiar with Dan Dao. He can see that Yi Tian's method of processing medicinal materials has gone through a long period of hard work. Otherwise, he can't reach such a perfect level. But he really can't understand how Yi Tian could have such exquisite skills at such a young age.
It can't be said that this guy has been practicing Dan Dao since he was born?
But he didn't know that although Yi Tian didn't begin to practice the way of Dan from his mother's womb, he had 200 years of practice history in Fengsuan spiritual realm, and he achieved the name of Emperor Dan. The method of refining Dan medicine can't be described as perfect, but the peak today, it's easy to refine the Tianling pill, which is to kill chickens with ox knife. Blindly add materials to the Dan furnace, and soon, under the red ground fire rotation, along the Dan furnace, came bursts of ding-ding-dong-dong sound. Hearing this voice, Meng Fan's heart immediately hung to his throat and stared at the Dan stove nervously. He knew that this stage, called quenching pills, was the most vulnerable part in refining pills. When the sound of quenching Dan reached the peak, Yi Tian put out the ground fire with a flick of his hand.
"Ah, what are you doing?" Qi Yun sees this scene, can't help exclaiming. The so-called quench pill is to quench the impurities in the pill with the help of the earth fire. But now, when the sound of quench pill reaches its peak, Tian suddenly turns off the earth fire. How can he not be surprised? He even doubts that Tian intends to refine this elixir. Tian didn't say a word. After putting out the ground fire, he waited for the sound of quenching in the Dan furnace. With the decrease of the temperature, he became completely quiet. Then he lifted his hand and took off the lid of the Dan furnace. In a flash, a fresh and refreshing aroma immediately flew out along the red stove and lingered in the whole fire square. Fortunately, it was a success. Leaf Day hand a move, take out a lavender Dan medicine from Dan furnace, looking at to put to smile away lightly. It worked, it's really successful, I actually got a magic pill. Mengfang hears the sound, trembles forward, and looks at the elixir in Tian's hand, mumbling, and even tears twinkle in the corner of his eyes. Over the years, he has been hoping that he can get a magic pill and break through the sky level all the time. Unfortunately, he did not wait for such an opportunity. He even doubted that he had no chance to break the sky level in his life. But now, he finally got what he wanted and got his own elixir. And all this is due to Tian. Without him, he would never have such a chance. Bao Guang. This elixir of heaven appeared Bao Guang. My God, it has at least 90% medicinal properties, it's not just Mengfang. When Qi Yun found that there was a light around the elixir made by Tian, his face was shocked and screamed. He is familiar with the way of pills, so he knows that pills with more than 90% properties will turn into visible substance, which is very similar to the light, that is, Baoguang. Tianneng made the elixir, and it is also an elixir with precious light and 90% medicinal power. How can he not feel strange? Because when Qi was alive, he once told him that even Qingming Sec sold only 70% of the Tianling pills. According to his estimation, even if Qingming Sec refined and took them by itself, it was only 80% at most. Refining pills, 90% is a barrier. If you don't break through 90%, you will be Master Dan. If you can break through 90%, you will be Master Dan. However, as Mr. Qi said, in this world, Master Dan Dao is extremely rare. Maybe the medicine king Chen Xingfeng can become a master, but unfortunately, his early death breaks this hope. But now, he saw with his own eyes a master of Dan Dao, and he was also a young master of Dan Dao to an appalling degree. Swallow the pill and get ready to make a breakthrough. Looking at Meng Fong and Qi Yun's excited appearance, Tian chuckled and handed him Tianling pill. Then he turned his head and looked at Qi Yun, and continued, the quenching pill is not about the longer the time, the better. The more important thing is the heat. If the time is too long, the properties of some materials will be destroyed. Although the impurities of the refined pill are less, the properties will not improve, but will decline and even lead to refining failure. I've been taught. Qi Yun smelled speech, immediately toward Tian respectfully gave a salute, eyes full of strong worship, immediately apologized, just my recklessness, forget your rules, please forgive me. That's all right. It's not going to happen again. Tian waved his hand at will, and then began to preheat the Dan furnace again, and purified the materials to prepare for refining Guiyuan Dan. Master, what kind of pills are you going to make? I've never seen the combination of these materials before. Qi Yun holds his breath and looks at Tian's action nervously. When he sees the materials he prepared, his eyes are even more confused. He was born in a family of Qi, had contact with many Dan masters, and knew many Dan prescriptions. But as far as he saw, Tian's materials for refining Dan medicine were different from any of the Dan prescriptions in his memory. Isn't this the Dan Fong created by the master himself? Suddenly, Qi Yun's mind suddenly came up with a bold idea. And the moment that this idea comes out, his body can't help but start to tremble. Looking at Tian's eyes is like looking at the god. You know, it's more difficult than refining pills to create your own prescription, because refining pills can be successful as long as you master every step of refining pills and control the temperature. But creating your own prescription means that you have to master the properties of each kind of elixir to a perfect level, and it takes a lot of energy to deduce the proportion of the elixir,
and what kind of spark will be produced after the combination of the properties. A piece of Dan Feng, sometimes not even a Dan master can finish all his life, needs the continuous efforts of countless generations to improve. As long as we can create our own master of Dandao, we have gone further and can be called the great master of Dandao. As far as Qi Yun knows, up to now, there has been a great master of Dandao, but no one has ever been able to achieve it. If Yi Naivete is a great master of Dandao who successfully created Danfeng, it is absolutely a miracle. Brush. But at this time, Yi Tian saw that the Dan stove had been burned red by the ground fire, and then he gently raised his hand and threw Yi Ying's processed materials into the Dan stove. Ding dong, as soon as the material entered the furnace, the lid was closed. Suddenly, along the furnace, there were bursts of firecrackers cracking. This Dan, how to enter the material, do not need to run, entered the quenching Dan stage? And the sound. Shi Yun's eyes are nervous and he looks at Dan Lu, not only puzzled, but also shocked. The reason why he didn't understand was that before the material was put into the furnace, it entered the stage of pill quenching, which he had never heard of or seen. Shocked, because he felt that, with the crisp impact of the quenching pill, he felt that there seemed to be a very vigorous drug in the pill oven. The strength of the drug, even across the pill oven, made him feel 100 times stronger than the spirit pill. Self-created Danfeng, this is absolutely self-created Danfeng. He is a great master of Dandao. Such a young master of Dantao, my god. But there is no doubt that at this moment, Qi Yun has completely determined that Yi Tian is absolutely a great master of Dandao. Boom! But when Qi Yun was shocked, along his side, there was a strong momentum, and the momentum made him feel shocked and almost breathless. Breaking through, I finally broke through today. I'm a heaven. Then Meng Fong, who was sitting on the ground with his knees crossed, stood up and looked at his hands. His face was full of ecstasy and murmured. At the beginning of the day. As soon as Qi Yun's eyes were swept, he immediately felt that from Meng Fang's body, there was a unique breath of people on Tianji Mountain. Meng Fang this time is like a fish leaping over the Dragon's Gate, completely rewriting the road of life. Qi Yun looked at Meng Fang enviously, clasped his hands and congratulated him with a smile. Congratulations, brother Meng, you have successfully broken through the sky level. From then on, the sky is high and the sea is wide, and you have achieved a strange career. Ha ha ha, thank you, elder brother Qi. In time, you will be an old monster. Meng Fang hears the sound, quickly converges his breath, arched his hand toward Qi Yun, and his face is full of joy. Once upon a time, he felt that the title of old monster was extremely hard to hear. Why do good people call themselves like this? But now, he thinks that the word Laogwei is really pleasant to hear, pleasant to think and fragrant. Shu, keep quiet. Don't disturb Master Yi. Immediately after that, Meng Fangru thinks of something and makes a silent move to Qi Yun in a hurry, then looks at Yi Tian gratefully and expectantly. He wanted to see what kind of pill Yi Tian was going to make. Ding dong at this moment, the sound of quenching Dan is more and more fierce, like a fast sound, like a storm, and the medicinal smell released along the Dan furnace is becoming more and more fierce at this moment. Where is this elixir? It's a drug beast. Qi Yun is tongue shaking. Before the end of quenching, the medicinal properties have reached such a level. We can imagine how strong the medicinal properties will be after Yi Tian's successful refining. But what made him suspect was that if he took such a powerful elixir, even if he took it at the top of the prefecture level, he was afraid that if he took one, he would explode the elixir field. How could Yi Tian refine such an elixir? It can't be said that at a young age, he is not only a great master of Dan Taoism, but also his cultivation has surpassed the peak of prefecture level. Here comes Baoguang. Before the end of the quenching pill, the power of the medicine has reached 90%. After that. Then, Qi Yun saw an incredible vision. Along the surrounding of the Dan stove, there was a layer of Baoguang that naturally appeared because of the extremely strong medicine. It's time for the fire. When Yi Tian saw Baoguang appear, he quickly put out the fire. With the remaining temperature, he quenched a little more and opened the lid with his hand. Hum! In a flash, a clear purple pill flew out of the furnace. Then, along the surface of the pill, there was a light purple mist, which suddenly spread out in all directions, and even rushed out of Daiwufang, making the surrounding appear light purple. With the whole Baishan Valley, it was surrounded by an unimaginable fragrance. Dan is a vision. God, this is Dan Cheng's vision. He is not the great master of Dan Dao, but Dan Zun. Shi Yun looked at the purple mist around him. His knees couldn't help but soften and fell on his knees in Yetian. If Baoguang is the difference between the master of Dan and the master of Dan Dao, and the self-created prescription is the difference between the master of Dan Dao and the great master of Dan Dao, then the most significant difference between the master of Dan Zun and the great master of Dan Dao is that when refining Dan medicine, Dan becomes abnormal. However, looking at Yi Tianru's age as a student, what chance does he have to be so young to become the legendary Dan Zun? Not only that, but it's even more amazing that according to the records Qi Yun once saw in a remnant chapter of Dan Dao, Dan Yao can be divided into 9 grades, and only refining more than 3 grades of Dan Yao can be qualified for Dan to become a vision. According to his calculation with the help of fragmentary articles, Tianlingdan is only a 2nd grade pill. And this is not to say that the elixir refined by Yi Tian is better than the elixir. Dan Zun. Sanpindan. Shi Yun's head is buzzing. He just feels that the whole person is going to be dull. If he didn't see all this happening with his own eyes, he almost doubted whether he had a strange dream at the moment. It's a success. With a move, Yi Tian put Guiyuan pill in his palm. Feeling the pure power of the pill and the remaining temperature, his eyes were shining and he murmured, "I'm coming from the 6th floor of the cave." Whoa! The next second, Yi Tian hands a yang, will return to Yuan Dan swallow into the mouth. In a flash, he immediately felt that an explosive force burst out along his mouth, and then along his throat. He rushed into the dantian, and immediately swept away like a flood. That kind of feeling let Yi Tian feel a strange power, constantly washing his body, let his body more dust. Click! Click! In a flash, along the joints of Yi Tian's whole body, bursts of sound came out immediately, but it was not the crackling sound when the bones and joints were shaking, but it was extremely loud, just like thunder roaring. What is the momentum of training and breaking through? Why is it so amazing? And what kind of realm is this? When Meng Fong broke the sky level, he didn't have such a terrible reputation. The vastness of the voice even made Qi Yun feel that his soul was trembling. He felt that he was standing unsteadily and wanted to kneel down. My God, Meng Fong, the heaven-level old monster, can't resist the pressure. When Qi Yun looks at Meng Fong, he finds that Meng Fong's body is shaking at the moment. Although he tries to resist it, his body is constantly retreating, and the trembling color in his eyes has reached the point of no more. At the same time, Yi Tian only felt that under the effect of the medicine, the flame of the original spirit fire in his elixir field became solid again. Although it's just a little solid, it gives him a feeling, but it's like the sun in the sky, yang rising, like magma, winding around the dantian, baptizing his viscera and spirit. In the end, the breath of the original spirit fire, inspired by the power of the medicine, turned into a huge oven, wrapped his body, as if the sun was hanging on the sky. Boom! Finally, along Yi Tian's body, there was a violent roar like beating Kuwei drum. Yi Tian only felt that there was a kind of god in his body. Shengsheng broke the oven created by the original spirit fire. In a short time, a pure and incomparable mana, like the flowing plasma, rushed to the limbs and entered every cell. Finally, they converge into the sea like a trickle, along the channels of meridians, and gather in dantian again. Under this sound, Qi Yun could no longer resist the awe in his heart. His knees softened and he could not help kneeling to the ground. Not only him, Meng Fong just insisted 1 second more than him, then he also knelt down on the ground. He can feel that in front of the power of Yi Tian's body, even he, a heaven-level old monster, is no different from mole ants. He even thinks that if Yi Tian wants to, he can crush him as easily as a mole ant. Yes. How can Sua Wangwen's idea be so powerful? The momentum of breaking through the 6th floor of the cave is almost comparable to that of breaking through the 7th floor of the cave from the 6th floor of the cave when practicing Qingming Daoju. At this moment, not to mention Qi Yun and others, even Yi Tian himself is secretly frightened. He felt that the strength he had at the moment was far more than the strength he had when he broke through the 6th floor of the cave in the square-inch spiritual realm. Even, he has a way that as long as he raises his hand, he can hold up the sky, and take 1 step, he will be able to break rivers and mountains. And when he looked inside, he found that the original spirit fire in the elixir had undergone a wonderful transformation. Every time the golden flame swayed, there would be bright red, crystal clear, ruby-like Cabernet Sauvignon flashing. It's transforming my body. Tian looked carefully, and then found that every time the red haze was gone, it would have an impact on his body, making his body become more and more clear. He could even purify the impurities in the aura of heaven and earth, and burn them with blazing fire, so that Tian's body would get the purest aura. Not only that, when Tian tries to swing his fist, he is more aware that these bright Cabernet Sauvignon will naturally flow with his fist intention, nourish his whole body, and make him powerful and domineering. Could it be that the 6th floor of the cave is the watershed of Sui Wangwen's idea? Tian is speechless, but he is also convinced that his strength has soared, which is inferior to that of him in the 6th floor of the cave when he was in Fangsuan Lingyu. This kind of strength makes him confident that he can fight against all kinds of strong men. This breakthrough is very impressive, and it can even be said that it is a complete mess. Taeman. Immediately, the Leaf Day flashed a strong to almost can't open the killing machine, Heart Lonan 3 words. When he was on the 5th floor of the cave, he felt that he was still some distance away from taking revenge on Taeman. But now, he was convinced that with his own strength, he could step on Taeman and let these guys pay the price of bleeding. Dong 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 dong. But at this moment, along the gate, there was a sudden knock on the door. Immediately, a dignified male voice came from outside. Chi Yun, open the door. The vision of the successful refining of Guiyuan pill has shocked other people in Baihua Valley. Hearing this, Tian immediately understands the reason, and then nods to Chi Yun, who is looking at him. He wants to have a look. What's the idea in the mind of the person who was startled by the vision? If you're just shocked and want to see what's going on, that's fine. But if it's something else, it's time to take them for a try and see how much their strength has improved after breaking through the 6th floor of the cave. What can I do for you, brother? Seeing Tian's sign, Chi Yun went to open the gate and saluted a middle-aged man with white face, medium build and dignified face outside. This man is the contemporary master of Baihua Valley. What happened here? I see in the register that you are refining the elixir? That doesn't seem to be the movement that the earth elixir can make, does it? Chi Yun nodded slightly, and at the same time, he glanced at Tian and others behind Chi Yun. Brother, are you wrong? I just made the elixir here. Chi Yun doesn't want to tell the truth, but pretends to be confused. Chi Yun saw that Chi Yun didn't want to tell the truth, and his brow turned into a knot in one's heart. Brother Chi Yun, do you think we are fools? When the elixir becomes elixir, will there just be that kind of vision? Brother Chi Yun, don't worry. The head of the Chi family is your brother. We Taeman have a good relationship with you. We won't rob you of your pills. We might as well take them out and let us have a look. At this time, an old man with white hair behind Chi Yun said with a warm smile. Taeman. Hearing the sound, Tian immediately glances at the old man with white hair, and then perceives the medium-term breath of the sky level from the other person. What Master Zhang said is, Chi Yun, are you afraid that I will not know your pills? As soon as Chi Yun heard this, he immediately stiffened his face and said coldly. Master Chi, there's something wrong with what you said. As the saying goes, my brother is clear about the accounts. What pills does Chi Yun have? It's his own business. If he wants to show it to others, he can show it to others. If he doesn't want to, can he force it? Meng Fong, hearing the words, arched his hand to Chi Yun and said in a deep voice. Who are you to tell me about my family? Chi Yun took a cold look and said, this pill, even if it's Chi Yun's, is made by our local fire. I'm the head of our family. Naturally, it's necessary to know what others have made by our local fire. Chi Yun, if you still have me in your eyes, take out the pills. Big brother. Chi Yun frowns at Chi Yun and wants to say something more. Take it out. Chi Yun didn't wait for Chi Yun to finish, then he continued to scold coldly. Chi Yun's face is changeable. He just takes Tian and others to refine the pill, and the pill has already been taken by Tian. What can he take out? However, Chi Yun's overbearing attitude really chilled his heart. Don't force him. I made the pill, which has nothing to do with Qi Yun. He just brought us to borrow the earth fire. Seeing this, Yi Tian takes a step forward and looks at Qi Yun calmly. Well, it's Qi Yun. You ignored the rules I set and brought outsiders to use the fire of my family. Besides, you colluded with outsiders to deceive the owner of my family. It seems that you really don't have our family in your heart. Qi Yun glanced at Qi Yun, then turned to look at Yi Tian, and said in a cold voice, "You use my Qi family's local fire to make pills without authorization. If you violate the rules of Qi family, you should be punished severely. Give your pills away. Hand over the elixir?" Hearing this, Yi Tian can't help laughing coldly. Qi Yun is really greedy. "I'm sorry, I've already taken the pill." Yi Tian shrugs at will, light way. "Then hand over Dan Feng." Qi Yun's eyes were cold, and then he said. Although he didn't know what kind of pill Yi Tian was refining, since he could make the pill into a vision, it showed that it was definitely not an easy pill. Today's Qi family is trying to improve its strength. If we can get such a Dan Feng, it will be of great benefit to stabilize the position of Qi family. Big brother. Qi Yun was stunned and looked at Qi Yun in disbelief. "Master Qi, it's not proper for you to do so." Meng Feng also frowned, released the breath of heaven-level cultivation, and looked at Qi Yun in a deep voice. "For Master Dan, it's like imparting mental dharma and cultivating sect. No matter who it is, it won't be given to others easily. Not to mention, it's necessary to hand over the prescription just by refining a pill with Diwa. Qi Yun's request is too overbearing and greedy. You have broken the sky level. Master Meng, if you want to protect this person." Qi Yun felt Meng Feng's breath. He was startled. His rigid attitude suddenly eased. Meng Feng's practice in Fujian province is well known, and everyone knows that for many years, Meng Feng has been trying his best to find the chance to break through the sky level, but unfortunately, he has not been able to. Qi Yun didn't expect that Meng Feng had broken through the sky level. To break through the heaven level means to call them old monsters, and to become the top group of people in the mountain, you can't help but be gentle. Meng Feng shook his head as he looked at Qi Yun's attitude. He is just a heaven level, so he scares Qi Yun into such a state. If you let him know that Yi Tian Gang just broke through his cultivation, he will be scared to death by the breath of his body and make himself kneel down on the ground. When I was a little guy, how could I have such a strong backing? I found a heaven-level old monster to support me. But at this time, the old man with white hair standing behind Qi Yun suddenly gave a light smile, looked at him playfully, and said faintly, "I just don't know, who is stronger in the early days of your breakthrough than in the middle of my life? If you do something wrong, you should pay the price. If you use fire without the permission of the Qi family, it's the Qi family leader who asks you what you want, and you should give it. Master Meng, I respect you as a heavenly being, but you have to be reasonable in everything. If you use Qi family's local fire to make pills without permission, you should pay. If you take the pills, it's okay, but you must take out the pills as compensation." When Qi Yun heard the old man's words, his eyes changed and he became proud again. He looked at Meng Feng. Meng Feng's breakthrough in the early days of Tianji was really extraordinary, but so what? Behind him stood a strong man in the middle of Tianji. No matter how strong Meng Feng is, a just broken Tianji can still defeat Tianji in the medium term? Brother, are you going to be a dog for Taiman? Don't you forget what the old man said in those days, that my family will never be attached to any of the 3 sects and 6 sects, especially Tai sect, which seems benevolent but is actually vicious? Qi Yun looked at Qi Yun's attitude and couldn't help it anymore. He choked his neck and yelled. "Qi Yun, what's your attitude?" Qi Yun's body trembles when he hears the speech. When Yu Guang sweeps the white-haired old man's face full of displeasure, he raises his hand and slaps it heavily on Qi Yun's face. After beating him to a stagger, he says in a cold voice, "Kneel down immediately and apologize to Elder Zhang. You don't deserve to be the head of the family," ignoring the old man's instructions. Qi Yun covered his face and yelled angrily. "The old man is dead. Now I am the head of the whole family. I don't need to explain to you what I do. Just remember that everything I do is for the sake of the whole family." Qi Yun shivered all over,
pointed to Qi Yun and said, "If you still recognize my brother and the head of my family, you will kneel down and slap yourself in the face and apologize to Mr. Zhang. Don't you think about it." Qi Yun shook his head coldly, and his attitude was extremely firm. "Master Qi, it seems that you Qi people don't listen to you very much. I tell you, in our Taiman, after each patriarch takes office, he will establish power. Qi Yun, the head of Qi family, if you are so disrespectful, you will certainly ruin the atmosphere of Qi family. I know that the head of Qi family is kind-hearted, and you will not be willing to attack your peers. Let me help you punish him severely." Looking at Qi Yun's appearance, the old man with white hair smiles and shakes his body slightly. He appears in front of Qi Yun's body, and then hits his dantian with his hand. This palm is full of strength. If it is hit, there is no doubt that Qi Yun's cultivation will turn into a bubble and become a useless person. Qi Yun instinctively wants to dodge, but the old man with white hair just glances at him, and he feels that under the powerful heaven-level pressure, his soul is pouring out, sweating, and his legs are like lead. He can't move, so he can only watch the clap. People in Taiman still like to get involved everywhere. They have your people everywhere. They don't feel satisfied if they don't show off your disgusting heart, do they? But at this time, Yi Tian takes a step forward and appears in front of Qi Yun like a ghost. He lightly raises his hand and holds the white-haired old man's wrist. The old man with white hair snorts, shakes his wrist, and tries to shake Yi Tian's hand. To his surprise, Yi Tian's hand holding his wrist is like an iron hoop. Although he tries to shake it, he can't get rid of it. Not only that, along the wrist was pinched position, but also came bursts of needle-like sharp pain. To die. The old man with white hair thought in his heart that the boy was young and had such strong power in his hand. At the same time, the mana was working, and his knee was suddenly raised. With thunder and lightning, he hit Yi Tian's dantian hard. Move your hand and move your foot, carry the power of the magic, and the middle of the heaven level is really powerful. This boy dared to challenge Elder Zhang. He really doesn't know what to do. Qi Wen looked at the scene, sneered in his heart, as if he had seen the picture of Yi Tianxia falling to the ground in a second. "How dare you show off in front of me? I don't think you know what real thunder is like." Yi Tian sneered indifferently, raised his hand like a fly, gently brushed, along the white-haired old man's knee. There was a heavy click sound. At the same time, his face was more difficult to hide the color of pain. Boom! But it was not over. Suddenly, thunder appeared in the fire square, and almost the bowl mouth was thick and thin. It fell heavily on the old man with white hair. In a flash, the white hair turned to coke black, and the skin all over the body turned to coke. The air was filled with the smell of clothes and hair being burnt, and the smell of skin being cooked. Bang! Then, the old man with white hair fell to the ground heavily. His body could not even twitch again, and there was no vitality on his body. He killed one of them in person. Qi Wen smelled the disgusting smell in the air, looked at the old man with white hair, and thought of his arrogant attitude of forcing Yi Tian to hand over Dan Feng in Naowei. His body trembled, his legs softened, and he fell to the ground. It's not just Qi Wen, Qi Yun and Meng Feng, who are equally shocked and inexplicable. Although they have already realized that Yi Tian's strength is very strong from the breath that Yi Tian just broke through, they still didn't expect that Yi Tian was so strong that they could easily kill one of them in the middle of the sky level. This cultivation, not to mention the later stage of heaven level, can only be achieved by the peak of heaven level? In the middle of the day? You can't stand a single blow. Yi Tian looks at the old man with white hair. He shakes his hand and sneers. Then he looks at Qi Wen, who is sitting on the ground. He says, "Master Qi, do you want Dan Feng? Please forgive me, I was just joking with you." Qi Wen's body shakes, his head immediately moves like a chicken pecking rice toward the ground. His nose and tears flow. Then he walks to Qi Yun in front of Yi Tian. Elder Zhang's powerful midterm heaven level was as vulnerable as a local chicken and a tile dog. When he met him, he would die. If you change to your only prefecture level peak, I'm afraid the other side will stab you with a finger and you will die. Master. Qi Yun looked at Qi Wen's trembling appearance. He felt that he had such a master in his family. At the same time, he turned his head, clasped his hands and looked at Yi Tian respectfully. For the sake of Qi Yun, I can spare your life.
Leaf Day toward Qi Wen swept an eye, light way. Thank you for not killing me. I will build an ancestral temple for you and the Qi family in the future, and offer you incense on the 15th day of the first day of junior high school. Qi Wen was overjoyed and kowtowed to Yi Tian. I haven't finished my words yet. You can get away with your death, but you can't get away with your life. As soon as Yi Tian raised his hand, he interrupted Qi Wen's words, and then said faintly, from today on, you can step back from the position of the head of Qi family. What? Qi Wen raised his head in a hurry and looked at Yi Tian in astonishment. To be the head of the Qi family has always been Qi Wen's favorite thing. Moreover, he felt that in addition to himself, there was no other person in the world who could be more competent for this position. But now, Yi Tian is to let him retreat from the position of the head of the family, which is more painful than killing him. Not only Qi Wen, but also Qi Yun looks at Yi Tian in amazement. Unexpectedly, he will make such a decision. It's up to you to take the position of the head of the family. At this time, Yi Tian sweeps his eyes at Qi Yun and calms down. Master, I. Qi Yun is stunned and looks at Yi Tian in disbelief. Although he was disgusted with many of Qi Wen's actions, he never thought that one day he would become the head of Qi family. Why, don't you? Or do you want to watch Mr. Qi's hard work to save a little money for your descendants, so that those black sheep will be destroyed? Yi Tian looks at Qi Yun and calms down. Hearing the news, Qi Yun involuntarily looks at Qi Wen, and then thinks of all kinds of actions he has done since he became the head of the family. He suddenly clenches his teeth, kneels down on one knee, clasps his hands to Yi Tian, and says in a deep voice, I'm willing to take over the head of the family. Qi Yun, you dare to take my place. Qi Wen gaped, looked at Qi Yun and said angrily. Elder brother, it's not that I rob you of your position, but that you really can't be the head of the family. Look what you have done since you ascended the position of the head of the family. Which one is not contrary to the old man's life? With a bitter smile, Qi Yun looked at Qi Wen and said slowly, I can't see the Qi family destroyed in your hands. The reason why our Qi family has the status in the past is not because we are attached to any powerful clan, nor because the old man is heaven class, but because we have always maintained a detached position, and because we have done a lot of good deeds, others respect us. But what did you do after you took the position of the householder? What goes against the old man's idea, what goes against the old man's will? You said so much, but it's because you have found a strong backing. But Qi Yun, I warn you that the backer you found may be very powerful, but don't forget that he just killed an elder of Taiman. Do you think Taiman will give up with him? When that happens, he will die, and our family will die with him. Qi Wen didn't pay attention to Qi Yun's words at all. He just roared loudly. Qi Yun can't help frowning slightly at the sound. As Qi Wen said, Taiman are the most important. Yi Tian killed an elder of Taiman now, so they will not give up. Maybe they will even drag the whole family into the mire. Taiman, believe me, they won't exist anymore soon. But at this time, Yi Tian suddenly light to a sentence. What Mr. Yi means is, my God, is he going to destroy an ancient Wuzong sect and one of the six of the three? Qi Yun hears the sound and excites Ling Ling to shiver. He looks at Yi Tian in horror. He knew that if what Yi Tian said was true, it would be an unprecedented event in the ancient martial arts in the past 100 years. It's impossible. You can't do it. You want to destroy Taiman by yourself. You are delusional. Qi Wen sneers and thinks that Yi Tian is a fool. The 3 sects and 6 sects, which one did not stand up in the blood and fire, has a solid foundation. If it is so easy to be destroyed, over the years, it may have been destroyed long ago, waiting for Yi Tian. Even if Qingming sect, the most powerful of the 3 sects, wants to destroy the other sects, he has to weigh it up. He is worried that there will be a situation where both sides will lose. Yi Tian wants to do it by himself, which is just wishful thinking. Yes? You think you can't do it because you have little knowledge. You don't know what 3 schools and 6 schools are in front of the crushing strength. They are all local chickens and dogs and are vulnerable to attack. Yi Tian looks at Qi Wen mockingly. The magic moves and his figure disappears in the same place. Where did he go? Qi Wen looked at the empty ground in front of him and rubbed his eyes. He was sure that this was not an illusion.
Master Yi, where have you been? Not only Qi Wen, but also Qi Yun, Meng Fong and Qin Luoshan are dull.
They scan the Huofeng in doubt, but they can't see Tian at all.
Now, do you think my words are still empty talk? Have you ever seen such a method?
But at this time, in front of everyone's eyes, a flower, Yi Tian, just like out of thin air, suddenly appeared in the position behind Shiwen, Light Wei.
When did he come behind me, and I didn't even notice it?
Shiwen hears the news and is afraid to look back. Then he sees that Yi Tian stands behind him with a smile on his face.
What is the means? Magic? Yes, it must be magic.
The real magic can't be compared with the so-called magic of the mountain people at all. Shiwen is not the only one. Qi Yun and Meng Fong are also completely dull. They stare at Yi Tian's position, and their eyes are full of strong and unbelievable colors. If it wasn't for my own eyes, who can believe that a living man suddenly disappeared and reappeared under the gaze of so many of them?
Now, do you still think I don't have the ability to destroy just one Taemin?
Yi Tian looked down at Shiwen, his mouth full of mocking smile. Cold Wei.
Aye.
Shiwen's whole body was shaking and his lips were moving, but he could not say a word at all. He doesn't know how Yi Tian did it, but he can be sure that he was born in a well-off family and had seen countless so-called mountain people's experts, and he had never seen such amazing means.
The position of the head of the Qi family will be your Qi Yun.
I hope that when I come back to Baihua Valley next time, the former famous Baihua Valley Qi family will not disappoint me as it is today.
Yi Tian sneers twice, then turns to look at Qi Yun, Light Wei. Don't worry, master. I'll set things right and let the family return to the right track. I'll live up to your hope.
Qi Yun's eyes changed, and he quickly made a decision in his heart. He knelt down in front of Yi Tian, word by word, and said sincerely, "Come on, take Shiwen down and take care of him. Don't let him leave the family." After that, when Qi Yun sees Yi Tian smiling and nodding, he gets up and says in a deep voice to those around him. A word fell along the fire out of the square immediately. Several people of Qi family rushed up, took Shiwen, took him out of the fire. From now on, you are the only one in charge of the Qi family. Closely following, Qi Yun, hands clasped, poured Yi Tian and to the ground. As long as you can keep your heart and let the whole family return to the past, no one can shake you, master of the family.
Yi Tian sweeps his eyes at Qi Yun and calms down. Thank you, master. I will not let you down. Qi Yun is overjoyed and salutes Yi Tian again. Come on, let's see what's going on with the little girl's mother.
Yi Tian nodded slightly, then turned his head and stretched out his hand to Qin Luogod. Seeing this, Qin Luoshan hurried over, hand in hand with Yi Tian, and went out to Daiwofeng.
Master Yi, are you really going to attack Taemin?
After leaving Daiwofeng, Meng Fong glanced around and saw that there was no one in charge of the family to follow.
Then he asked Yi Tian in a hurry.
But when he said that, he instinctively called Yi Tian Elder Yi. After breaking through the sky level, he thought that he was the most powerful group in the world, but compared with Yi Tian, he found that even though he was already a sky level, he was still a dreg. However, he really couldn't understand why Yi Tian was so young, that he had such profound attainments of Dan Dao, and even his accomplishments were so high that it was incredible.
Qin Luoshan also looked nervously at Yi Tian.
Blood feud, have to revenge.
Yi Tian nodded, his eyes shrouded in murderous thoughts, and said every word. Taemin forced his parents to death.
In the last life, he had no way to find out the truth, let alone the ability to revenge for them. But now, he has found out the truth and has the ability to do so. If he doesn't take revenge, he will be a son of man in vain.
Meng Fong feels the fierce killing on Yi Tian's body.
The corner of his eye twitches a few times, and completely confirms that Yi Tian really intends to make Taemin disappear from the world. What's more, what makes him feel incredible is that after all these things, he heard that Yi Tian wanted to fight against Taemin. Instead of having any sense of absurdity, he felt that there might be no Taemin in the world in the future. You know, if in the past he heard such words, and thought that someone wanted to wipe out his position in the world for countless years, experienced blood and fire, and then established himself in the list of 3 schools and 6 schools, and became the Taemin who crushed the top mountain of countless mountains, he would feel that the other party was in delusion. But now, he has no such idea at all, but the shock that Yi Tian brought to him is amazing.
A moment later, Yi Tian and others came to the hotel at the gate of Baihua Valley. The Qi family in the hotel has learned that Yi Tian has made the change of the head of the Qi family with his own efforts. As soon as they see Yi Tian, they immediately trot over with a flattering smile and lead Yi Tian to the little girl's room. As for the idea of killing Yi Tian, it's gone now. Are you kidding me? Kill a big man who can lead the replacement of the owner. If he does, it's strange that Qi Yun, the current owner, won't kill him. Big brother, are you here to save mom? As soon as Yi Tianyi enters the hotel room, the little girl who is nervously waiting for her mother immediately runs over and looks at Yi Tian expectantly and asks, "Well, let me see her first." Yi Tian smiles and rubs the head of this cute little girl, then opens Yuan Tian's eyes and sweeps her eyes at the little girl's mother. "It is as like as two peas," Lu Hua said. After a glance, Yi Tian immediately identified the symptoms of the little girl's mother. "Mr. Yi, I've known about her. She has advanced liver cancer. In the early stage of cancer, our family medicine can control the disease, but in the late stage, our family medicine can't work at all. After all, medicine can't kill people. Although Qi Wen's previous practice is wrong, and the little girl is really poor, we'd better tell the truth. It gives people hope, but it can't be realized. That kind of disappointment is worse than despair." Qi Yun sighed and explained to Yi Tian in a low voice. "Can't cash it? That's your family, not me." Yi Tian chuckled and looked at Qi Yun and said, "Does Qi family have dewdrops?" "Yes." Qi Yun nodded in a hurry, and his eyes were startled. Master Yi suddenly asked if he could cure a patient with advanced liver cancer who had lost consciousness? But cancer is a terminal disease. Very good. Take the condensation flour and prepare some herbs for me. Then take their mother and daughter to Daiwafang. Yi Tian light smile command away. Yes. Qi Yun hears the speech, suppresses the doubt in the heart, then personally takes the little girl's mother from the bed, and walks to the 100 Flowers Valley. "Big brother, you can cure your mother, right?" The little girl nervously grabs Yi Tian's hand, hoping for the road. "Wait a minute, your mother will wake up." Yi Tian nodded with a smile, holding Qin Luoshan in one hand and the little girl in the other, returning to Daiwafang. At this time, the people in charge of the family had already prepared the materials such as the dew flower. After taking the materials and looking at them, Yi Tian went into the Daiwafang and started the furnace again to refine the pills. In a short time, he made 2 rejuvenating pills. "Take some water, melt the pill and give it to her." Yi Tian gives Qi Yun the pill and arranges it. Qi Yun nodded and quickly took the clear water. He opened the pill and poured it into the middle-aged woman's mouth. Just a little later, Qi Yun raised his hand and rubbed his eyes. He looked at the middle-aged woman in disbelief. When the middle-aged woman was in a coma, her whole body revealed a strong sense of death, just like dying, but now along her body, there was a burst of vitality blooming, just like the withered wood in the new year. Little girl. At this time, the middle-aged woman's eyelids blinked a few times, slowly opened, dry lips low shout. "Ma!" When the little girl heard this, she screamed and immediately fell on the middle-aged woman. Tears were like broken lines, flowing down her cheek. It's a success. The elixir refined by Master Yi actually cured a patient with advanced liver cancer. Qi Yun's head is buzzing. When he looks at Yi Tian with his eyes, the color of reverence in his eyes is so strong that it can hardly be changed. Although he knew that Yi Tian had a strong attainments in Dan Dao and could even refine the legendary Sandpin pill, he still didn't expect that Yi Tian could produce a pill that could cure even cancer. This kind of elixir has been called a life and death person, flesh and bone. After all, there is no difference between a patient with advanced liver cancer who has not received excellent treatment for a long time and a dead person. Medicine does not kill people. This is true, but the elixir refined by Yi Tian is obviously an exception. Here's the Dan prescription. It's not very difficult to refine it. With your strength, you should be able to refine it. In the future, I'll use it as the gold-lettered signboard of Baihua Valley. But I have only one request. I can't be helpless, especially those who are in trouble because of their poor family. For these people, asking for Dan is free. For others, how much money you want to sell this Dan and how much profit you can make are your own business. Yi Tian happily looks at the little girl and the middle-aged woman. After a moment, he finds a pen and paper to write down the prescription of Huichundan and the refining items, and then gives it to Qi Yun, calmly admonishing him. Master, you are going to give this prescription to our Qi family. Qi Yun looks at the Dan Fong in Yi Tian's hand, swallowing saliva, but his hands tremble, but he doesn't dare to pick it up, as if the Dan Fong weighs 10 million jin. It is conceivable that the value of a Dan prescription that can cure patients with advanced cancer cannot be described without changing thousands of gold. If it is in the hands of others, it must be 10,000 gold, 100,000 gold, or even 1 million gold. After all, nothing in the world is more precious than life. But now, Yi Tian casually gives Dan Fong to him. His request is not to let the Qi family take out something precious, but to let them not be helpless. Especially when they meet people from poor families, they can't refuse because they don't have money to buy medicine. If Qi Yun didn't see the scene with his own eyes and hear it with his own ears, he couldn't believe that it would be true. Yes, this Dan Fong is given to your Qi family on the condition that I just said. If one day, let me know the Qi family didn't do things according to the agreement, you should know what I can do. Yi Tian looked at Qi Yun and said with a faint smile. Don't worry, elder. I will do as you tell me. If someone from a poor family needs this medicine, and the whole family can cure him, he will not be helpless. Qi Yun clasped his hands and said respectfully. Good. Yi Tian nodded and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. After Lu Hua's affair last time, he actually had the idea to take out the Danfang of Huichundan and help more people who are similar to Lu Hua. Although Ning Shui is a good target, it's a pity that Ning family doesn't have the conditions to refine pills, and they don't have the strength. But the Qi family is different. They have the fire of the earth and the reserve of miraculous drugs. In addition to Qi Yun's previous performance, he is also quite satisfied with Yi Tian's appetite, which makes him think that it might be a good choice to give the Dan prescription to the Qi family. And he believes that after Qi Wen's experience, Qi Yun will not dare to disobey his decision. Thank you, big brother. At this time, the little girl ran over, knelt in front of Yi Tian, and was about to kowtow to him. You're welcome. Yi Tian smiles and pulls the little girl up from the ground. After staring at her, he says with a smile, Honey, do you want to be as powerful as your brother in the future, and then help more people? What Mr. Yi means is on hearing Yi Tian's words, Qi Yun's eyes suddenly changed, and then he looked at the little girl enviously. Yes. When I grow up, I will help more people like my mother, like my big brother. Without thinking, the little girl nodded her head and said crisply. If you want to, when your mother is well, you can ask this uncle to send you to Nanhai University to find me. At that time, I will teach you to become as powerful as me, and then, as you said, help more people like your mother. Yi Tian rubbed the little girl's head with a smile and said with a smile. Master Yi really wants to accept apprentices. This child, what a blessing. Qi Yun listened to these words, completely confirmed the guess in the heart, the envy in the eyes, almost all want to turn into the essence. Not only Qi Yun, but also Meng Fang's eyes towards the little girl were more envious. If you can learn from a master who can easily kill the middle stage of heaven level and refine Sanpindan, you will have an unlimited future. I don't know how many detours you can take. Such a thing, even if he is in the early days of heaven, how can he not be envious? Good boy, go with your mother. Yi Tian smiles at the little girl and says softly. He was moved by the girl's persistence and perseverance. This kind of temperament is most suitable for cultivation. What's more, she has a kind heart. Therefore, Yi Tian does not want to miss such a good seedling. Well, let's go. After looking at the little girl, Yi Tian nodded to Qin Luotian, and the party left the ward. Just now that little girl's matter, you remember on the heart. But if she doesn't want to, she doesn't have to be forced to follow her heart. After leaving the ward, Yi Tian looks at Qi Yun and tells him with a smile. Yi Tian doesn't know whether it's good or bad to take the little girl to practice, so she chooses to let her make her own decision and see fate. If fate doesn't arrive, she doesn't have to force anything. Yes. Qi Yun nodded respectfully, indicating that he had written down Yi Tian's words.
Brother Meng, let's get ready to go. I can't wait to do some things. Yi Tianchao's eyes narrowed slightly after he looked at them, and there was more chill in his tone. From the moment of his rebirth, he has been looking forward to revenge for his parents. Once he had no strength, so he could only bear it in his heart, but now he has broken through the 6th floor of the cave. With this strength, he naturally doesn't want to let those scum of Taiman enjoy themselves for another minute. Yes. Meng Fong nodded respectfully, exchanged greetings with Qi Yun, and the party left Baihua Valley. Master Yi, what is the realm of cultivation? After seeing Yi Tian and others leave, a Qi family member who follows Qi Yun can't help asking curiously. Unfathomable. Qi Yun was a little silent and shook his head slowly. He felt vaguely that there was no way to measure Yi Tian's cultivation level by the level of the mountain people. Even for a few moments, he felt that Yi Tian's cultivation level might not even be able to compete with the so-called first person on the mountain, Lu Bufan. Remember, in the future, the little girl in the hotel will be confessed as an ant, but don't overdo it. Don't let her feel that we are trying to please her, otherwise, maybe the elder Yi will be angry. Closely following, Qi Yun toward those Qi family members around him, orders in a deep voice. It's just a little girl. The whole family murmured in a low voice. You know a fart, now the little girl film, in the future, maybe it is the existence that needs you and I to look up to. Qi Yun cold humme, sink a voice to scold away. Yi Tian's strength is unfathomable. This little girl can follow him to practice. This starting point is higher than joining Sanzangliaman. I'm afraid it's difficult for such a person to cultivate badly in the future. I'm afraid that the sky level that countless people on the mountain can't reach is like a small step for people in the future. It's a good thing for them to make a good relationship now. Brother Meng, now you are an old monster of heaven level. You can tell me the secret comparable to the elixir of heaven according to the agreement, and what chance Lu Bufan got to break through his cultivation. At the same time, outside Baihua Valley, after getting on the bus, Yi Tian looks at Meng Fong and asks with a smile. Of course. In fact, the answers to these two questions can be put into one, because the answers to both questions are the same. Meng Fong nodded respectfully, organized the language, looked at Yi Tian and asked, Master Yi, do you know why Qingming sect can stand at the top of 3 sects and 6 sects, and why it can control the ability of refining Tianlingdan? Brother Meng, you don't have to call me elder brother. Just like in the past, you call me elder brother. You always make me feel as if I have a white beard, but I really can't answer the question you said. Yi Tian listens to Meng Fong's words, and shakes his hand in a tearful way. Well, Yetian brother Yi, the reason why King Mingzong achieved this achievement is very simple. It's all due to their ancestors. It is said that the founder of Qingming sect is very powerful. He not only founded Qingming sect by himself, but also dug up a small world left over from ancient times for Qingming sect. Among them, there are countless exotic flowers and plants with abundant aura, which can't be compared with the earth. Meng Fong explained in a deep voice, and then he looked forward to it. After a sigh, he suddenly lowered his tone, added more mystery and said slowly, the aura of the earth is too thin, so the highest level of heaven is the limit of cultivation that this piece of heaven and earth can support us. But the little world of King Mingzong is different. The aura there can support the people in the sky to a higher level. There is even a rumor that the small world is connected with a more vast mysterious world. The ancestor of Qingming sect once went there, but no news came back. I don't know whether it's life or death. King Mingzong has a small world left over from ancient times, connecting a wider mysterious world. The reason why mountain people's cultivation is the highest in heaven is the limit of the earth's aura. Meng put a word, let Yi Tian hear shock inexplicable, head buzzing. At this moment, he really doubted that the mysterious little world of King Mingzong was connected with Fengsuan's spiritual realm. After all, Qingming sect's mental cultivation method is the Qingming Taoist formula inherited by Qingming Blessed Land, but it is slightly incomplete. From the perspective of cultivation, among the many practitioners on the earth, King Mingzong had the closest relationship with him, even his descendants. But unfortunately, by coincidence, the two sides in the same vein have become enemies who never die. Lu Bufan should have broken through his cultivation in that small world, but when he broke through, why he was seriously injured and appeared outside Qingming sect. That's what I can't understand. At this time, Meng Fong continued to explain to Yi Tian.
Yi Tian nodded slightly.
He guessed that the reason why Lu Bufan appeared outside Qingming's sect was that the small world sent people out.
It was not fixed, but random. It happened that the point Lu Bufan sent out was outside Qingming's sect. As for Lu Bufan's heavy injury, it is quite puzzling. Is there any crisis in that small world?
Brother Yi, it seems that you don't think these words I said are Arabian Nights. Meng Fong stares at Yi Tian, his eyes change, and he says in a small voice. You know, if you tell other mountain people what he said, they will be suspicious. Even most people will sneer at him and think that he is just blowing his own horn.
But when Yi Tian heard his words, he nodded slightly and didn't say anything. He didn't even have a little surprise on his face.
It was as if he knew that there were such things in the world, or that he had experienced similar things.
Of course not.
Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head. When he sees Meng Fong's perplexed face, he immediately understands what he thinks in his heart and says, I always believe that there are many things in this world that are more strange than Arabian Nights. Yi Tian was young, and he had this realm of cultivation.
He must have had some chance.
Maybe it was similar to the small world of Qingming's sect.
Meng Fong heard Yi Tian's words and nodded slightly. He couldn't help but guess more.
But he didn't know that Yi Tian had practiced Taoism and Fengsuan Lingyu for 200 years. He had experienced countless things that were incredible to the mountain people like Meng Fong, let alone a small world.
Brother Yi, these things are what I know. I know that the news is not worth the elixir. Therefore, no matter what you ask me to do in the future, as long as I can do it, I will not be a hero if I frown and make a big difference.
Immediately, Meng Fong sincerely looked at Yi Tian, word by word, resolute way. It's his lifelong dream to achieve Tianji. Now, Yi Tian has helped him fulfill his long-cherished wish. He thinks he should give Yi Tian more than this news. Speaking of it, I really have one thing to ask for your help. I'm going to Wuhaifeng in Gannan to meet those scum of Taimen for a while. Please help me protect Luotian for a while. Yi Tian raises eyebrow a smile, looking at to put away.
Brother Yi, do you really want to deal with Taimen?
In Tai Gate, there are 6 people in the later stage of Tianji, and they are suspected to have the inside information of Tianji Peak. Meng Fong frowned and said sincerely to Yi Tian. If you don't take revenge on your parents, you will be a son in vain.
Yi Tian nodded solemnly, word by word. Good. In that case, I'll stop talking. Meng Fong looks at Yi Tian and hears that it's his parents' blood feud.
He knows that it's meaningless to persuade him. He immediately hugs Yi Tian and says, Miss Qin, let me take care of her.
Don't worry.
As long as I have a breath, I won't let anyone hurt Miss Qin.
Thank you very much.
When Yi Tian heard the speech, he also threw a fist at Meng, saying sincerely. The safety of Qin Luogod is what he is most worried about now. He is very worried about what kind of attack Qingming's sect will make during this period of time. The safety of Qin Luogod will be more guaranteed if the heaven-level master Meng Fong sits down.
Yi Tian, you must be careful.
I think your uncles and aunts want you to avenge them, but I hope you can do well. Qin Luotian is silent for a moment, and doesn't dissuade Yi Tian. Instead, he clenches his hand and says softly. Don't worry, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. Before long, I'll be back. Yi Tian raises eyebrows and smiles confidently, and clenches Qin Luotian's soft hand. Soon, the party arrived at the station, and immediately saw Yi Tian off for the high-speed railway to Gannan.
The speed of Huaxia high-speed railway is first class.
In only 2 or 3 hours, the fast train will cross mountains and rivers and arrive at Gannan high-speed railway station.
Wuhaifeng is also well known in southern Jiangxi. Yi Tian knows the location of Wuhaifeng as soon as he inquires about it.
Then he rents a car and drives straight to Wuhaifeng.
Taimen acts like the Mo family. Around Wuhaifeng, they have been surrounded by them. They belong to the forbidden area that no one can get close to.
Of course, on the surface, this is the virgin forest that has not been developed. After Yi Tian drove into the area of Wuhaifeng, he stopped and pulled to the side, and then stood up. It was not long before Yi Tian saw that there was a group of ancient buildings in the dense mountain forest. Without any hesitation, he pressed the flying sword and landed in front of the mountain gate of Tai Gate. Tai Gate is one of the 6 gates of 3 sections. The gate is far from what the Mo family can match. The huge gate archway, from a distance, has a majestic momentum. The 3 gold characters of Tai Gate are shining in the sun. To convince people by virtue and benevolence and justice are unparalleled. Not only that, on both sides of the mountain gate of Tai Gate, there are 2 meters high boulders with 8 characters written on them. The writer's accomplishments are not low. When he looks up, he can feel a kind of awe-inspiring momentum. To convince people with virtue, benevolence and justice are unparalleled. Jokes are really big jokes. Tian looks at these 8 words, just feel like seeing a big joke. What qualifications do they have to hang these 8 words in front of the mountain gate? Duh! They are short of money. Jen, they are also short of money. Righteousness, they lack more. The only thing they need is to put money on their faces. Boom! 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 Thinking of this, Tian's hand trembled, and 4 wind blades flew out of the mountain. He cut them into large and small stones and rolled down the mountain. Who dares to come to our Taiman to be wild destroy our Taiman's training? Startling roar, immediately there are 4 Taiman disciples, holding a long knife, rushed from the mountain gate. Gate training? I will not only destroy your sect, but also destroy your Tai sect today. With a sneer, Tian raises his hand, and a wind blade flies out, and immediately falls on the stone archway of Tai Gate. Creak creak boom. When the wind blade fell, the archway of Tai Gate shook a few times, and immediately accompanied by bursts of acid crunching sound, from the center of the 3 characters of Tai Gate, it split into 2 sections, and fell heavily on the ground, splashing countless dust. In the blink of an eye, the grand archway turned into a piece of gravel, like an abandoned quarry. Crazy if you dare to destroy the mountain gate of Tai Gate, you must be a madman. The disciples of Taiman, looking at the collapse of the mountain gate, were stunned for a long time. After a long time, they all shivered, surprised and angry. Since its establishment, Taiman has a history of hundreds of years. With the rise and fall of dynasties, Taiman has never stood up, and Shanmen has never suffered any damage. But now, their mountain gate was smashed to pieces. Who dares to believe that such a picture is not seen with his own eyes, and who can do such a thing except a madman? But as far as they feel, there is no doubt that since Tian dares to do these bold things, then waiting for him must be a dead end. Lunatic? Tian listens to these 4 people's words, looks at them to mock a smile, light way, since you say I am a madman, that today, I am good madness a time. As the words fell, Tian raised his hand and several wind blades flew out. He cut the 4 people into 8 pieces and spilled blood on the huge stones on the ground. Parents' blood feud, not together, Taiman every hand, are stained with blood. Don't these mountain people like to speak with their fists, respect the strong, and regard the common people as mole ants that can be trampled on at will? Today, he will let these guys have a look at their real strength, and then let them feel what it's like to be treated as a mole ant. Taiman will die today. Tian uttered coldly every word, and immediately walked up step by step on the pool of blood of the 4. Every step of the fall, leaving a bright red footprint on the ground, killing. Who are you? Do you want to die by breaking into our Tai gate? In the middle of his walk, Tian gang rushed down more than 10 Taiman disciples from the buildings on the mountain. Holding a sword in his hand, he surrounded Tiantuan and drank bitterly. I want to die. You are looking for death. Tian's eyes are indifferent, and he doesn't want to waste a word with these people at all. As soon as he raises his hand, the wind blade with fireballs roars out, and falls heavily on the people who are not good at looking at Tai. Ah! All of a sudden, people howled bitterly. In the blink of an eye, the ground was covered with charred corpses and pools of blood. Who are you? Why do you want to do such a thing to Taiman? There are a few Taiman, breath is not absolute, pour in the pool of blood, panic confused looking at Tian, murmur. They don't understand when Taiman got into trouble with such a powerful enemy of cultivation. Killing these people is like killing chickens, which makes them have no power to fight back. Do you remember Yi Honlai and Mu Ci? Tian looks down at these people and says coldly.
These Tian disciples, hearing Yi Tian's words, were at a loss. They didn't know who he was talking about. Yes, you think of them as mole ants. How can you remember the name of the mole ants who were trampled to death? Yi Tian looks at these people's confused look, sneers, hands a yang, windblade fall, completely took these people's lives. Dad, Mom, I avenged you today. After killing these Tai disciples, Yi Tian looks up at the sky and murmurs. He has been waiting for this day for a long time. At that time, he had the strength to revenge, but he could not return to the earth. In this life, he found out the real murderer, but he did not have enough strength before, so he could only hide his hatred in his heart. But now, at last, he can take revenge for his parents. Today, Yi Tian is going to exterminate Tian. All the people in Tian are the people Yi Tian is going to kill. If you want to live, you should abandon your cultivation and kneel on both sides of the road. Otherwise, you will not be spared. After a long time, Yi Tian raised his hand and wiped away the tears from the corner of his eyes. Looking ahead, he heard a word, just like thunder, exploding above Tai Gate. Although he wanted to destroy the Tai sect, there were thousands of disciples in the Tai sect. It was inevitable that there would be good people among them, or they had not been involved in the death of his parents. So he didn't want to do too much killing. However, he has already said that if these people hear his words and still do not follow the agreement, then don't blame him for being impolite. Joke, what kind of thing do you think you are? You dare to come to our Tian and make them abandon their cultivation and kneel down on the side of the road. Kneel down immediately, I can consider leaving a whole body for you. Soon, there are 3 middle-aged people at the top of the prefecture level, with more than 10 Tai disciples, who appear in front of Yi Tian. They scan him with poor eyes and sneer coldly. Whoa! Yi Tianzhen didn't want to talk with these people. He raised his hand and swept the wind blade quickly, just for a breath. These 3 people's heads, like a ball opened by big feet, flew up from their necks. The hot blood, like a fountain, accompanied by the mountain wind, sprayed on the faces of those Tai disciples behind them. The bloody smell is pungent. The disciples of Tai sect shiver and look at Yi Tian in horror. No matter who it is, you can imagine that when Yi Tian comes to the top of the prefecture level, he is just like a ridiculous mole ant. He just raises his hand lightly and his good life turns into nothing. It's up to you to get down on your knees or die. Yi Tian glances at the remaining disciples of the Tai sect indifferently, looking coldly. Please forgive me, Master. I'm willing to abandon my accomplishments. Soon, a few Tai disciples fell to their knees, clenched their teeth, reprinted to Dantian and abandoned their cultivation. Run! Run away. However, there are also some Tian disciples who think they are extremely smart, but they are unwilling to abandon their accomplishments or lose their lives. They howl and rush to the nearby mountains, hoping that Yi Tian can't catch up with them. Since you are not obedient, you are going to kill yourself. With a sneer on the corner of his mouth, Yi Tian's flying sword suddenly flew out of the Dantian field and turned into a rainbow light. It passed the necks of these Tai disciples. The sharp edge of the sword just passed by and cut their bodies in two. In an instant, on the ground, there was a lot of red stained by blood. Looking at this scene, Yi Tian doesn't have any pity in his heart. Every time he kills someone, his mother's loving face and father's serious but always full of expectations come to mind. All these things, the father's love and mother's love he should have gone forever because of Tian. After 200 years of cultivation, revenge for his parents has almost become his demons. At the beginning, he felt that behind the death of his parents, there was a pair of invisible magic hands. But when he went to the square-inch spiritual realm, he knew too little about the world, and did not know that there was Tian. At this moment, in the gate of Tai, Yi Tian's demonic nature, which was repressed in his soul, appeared again. Revenge. Revenge for your parents. Perhaps cruel, perhaps bloodthirsty, but think of his parents' loving face, think of his life, never see these two people, his heart will have a huge murder. If he doesn't kill these people, he's ashamed of his parents. If he doesn't kill these people, he's a son in vain. If you don't kill him, he doesn't deserve to be called a man. Flying Swordmaster, please spare your life. We are willing to surrender, and we are willing to abolish our accomplishments.
As soon as this scene appeared, the rest of the people in Tian who couldn't make up their mind immediately looked frightened. Their knees trembled and they knelt down on the ground. Then they raised their hands and took photos of them towards Tian, which made years of hard work come to nothing. Tian looks at these people's appearance, raises the foot indifferently to move forward. Along the way, there are many Tai disciples who attack. Those who resist are all killed by Tian. Those who don't abandon their cultivation and kneel to the ground are also incarnated in a pool of blood. Just for a moment, in the mountain wind of Wuxifeng, there was a strong smell of blood. You fierce devil, kill my Tai disciples indiscriminately. Do you think that no one can subdue you when I go up and down the Tai sect? A few days later, just when Tian came to an open platform, a middle-aged man, with several young people of extraordinary appearance, appeared in front of Tian. He looked at him coldly and said in a cold voice, "I'm the devil." Hearing this, Tian looked at the old man and said, "Have you ever heard of Yi Honlai and Mu Xiai? Who is that?" The old man frowned and felt that the two names seemed to be unknown. Kill people, but even their names have been forgotten. You Taiman have the face to say I'm a fierce devil. Tian smiles indifferently and shakes his head, then says faintly, "You can go to accompany Elder Zhang of Tai Gate." What have you done to him? The old man hears speech and is startled. He looks at Tian suspiciously and asks in a deep voice, "On the way to Huangquan, go and ask him." Tian pinched the key on his hand, and the wind blade swept out. The 6 wind blades were like a rainstorm, and immediately swept in front of the old man. The old man wanted to block his fist, but when his fist fell on the wind blade, his arm was cut off by the sharp wind blade, and his blood gushed. Whoa! Then, a blade of wind swept over his neck, and his head flew high. The blood seemed like a spring. In a short time, countless blood splashed in the sky. A little bit of blood, like a rainstorm, hit those Tai disciples who were full of confidence behind him. They were scared and uneasy. Abandon cultivation, kneel down or die? Tian looks at those disciples of Tai sect who are covered with blood indifferently. Poop. After a word, a Tai disciple standing in front of him trembled his legs and knelt down to the ground. He kowtowed to Tian and said in a flattering voice, "Master, I'm the 3rd Taoist of Tai. Please spare me a way to live. From now on, I'm willing to be a cow and a horse for you. I'll be a dog for you. I'll never betray you in this life. I'm willing to make a blood oath." Make me a dog? You don't deserve it. Tian stares at the so-called 3rd Daozi and slowly shakes his head. At the same time, he shakes his hand, and a blade flies out. Suddenly, he stabs into the other person's chest and brings up a cloud of blood. Master! The 3rd Daozi's eyes widened and his body collapsed. Before he died, his eyes still widened. That empty eyes, as if to death can't understand, towering on the peak of the mountain, as one of the 3 schools of 6, how can Tian come to such a miserable end today? Of course, he can't understand why Tian, who seems to be younger than him by his age, killed one of the middle class of heaven in person, and then went into the hinterland of Tian like nobody. All the way, he made countless Tian disciples bow or beg for mercy. I said, abolish cultivation, kneel down, live, rebel, die. 2 ways, you choose for yourself. Tian ignores the dead 3rd Daozi and looks at the rest of Tai's disciples. Every word is indifferent. Forgive me, sir, we are willing to live on. I beg you to give us a way to live. We are willing to discard our accomplishments. A word fell down, and immediately came a sound like dumplings in front of Tian's body. A Tian disciple fell to the ground with his knees soft and clenched his teeth. Then he raised his hand and patted it heavily towards Tian, and he abandoned his cultivation. Tian steps forward, blinks, then comes to the hall of Tai Gate. This plaque is too ugly to exist in this world. Tian looks up at the antique plaque in the middle of the hall, which is written with 3 big characters Tai Gate. He shakes his head, turns his hand, and 2 wind blades fly out and fall heavily on the plaque. Click! 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 With a burst of wood tearing, Tian, which has been handed down for hundreds of years, experienced countless vicissitudes, and the plaque of blood and fire immediately exploded into thousands of pieces of sawdust and flew in all directions. The wind blade's strength is too fierce. Even after breaking the plaque, the rest of the strength is still not dissipated. Go straight to the top of the hall and cut the exquisite glazed tiles and beams into pieces. Boom! With a dull sound, the hall without the support of the main beam collapsed, splashing with countless smoke and dust. Many Tai disciples in the hall who had not yet had time to leave were smashed into meat sauce by the heavy ridge and the shrill howl. Get down on your knees or die. Tian looked at the two sides of the hall. The disciples of the Tai sect, who were dense and holding a sharp blade, stepped forward and said indifferently, "Wow!" When he stepped forward, the disciples of Tian, who used to be invincible, regarded ordinary people and scattered cultivation as mole ants, just felt like they were being watched by a terrible troll, and then stepped back. Younger generation, you want to die. But at this time, along the back of the main hall of the building group, suddenly came two shouts. Immediately, two shadows appeared in front of Tian's body, standing on the ground. Can't help but say, the body turned into a shadow, carrying the breath of the cold wind Yuan, toward Tian's chest. Xian Changlao and Elder Su have made a move. The two Tianji later staged join hands. This guy is dead. When the two elders take him down, I will cut him to pieces, and let him understand the price of insulting Tian. Seeing these two figures, those Tian disciples who were at a loss and were forced back by Tian's life immediately burst into joy. They were overjoyed, as if they saw the picture of Tian being killed. Is it invincible at the later stage of heaven level? Tian sneers indifferently, and his figure flashes. At the moment when the shadow of these two people's fists appears in front of him, his figure disappears from these two people. His fierce fists just hit the air. How suddenly disappeared. What's his secret? It's incredible. Is this guy a ghost? Where did he go? What's this guy doing? This scene let those Tai disciples one by one gape, can't believe looking at the body. Many people even began to rub their eyes, doubt whether they have hallucination. Otherwise, how can a living man disappear out of thin air? But where do they know that this is exactly the wind escape method Tian mastered after he broke through the 6th floor of the cave? He can't find where he is unless his mind is extremely powerful. Rebel, die. But at this time, everyone just felt a sudden flower in front of them. Immediately, Tian's figure disappeared like a ghost appeared behind the two late heaven-level elders like a ghost. When he uttered a cold voice, he turned his hand and said, "The wind is coming." Suddenly, two huge, almost half-human high clear wind blades suddenly formed in the void. Then, like two huge machetes, with dazzling speed, they stabbed at the back of the heart of the two late heaven-level elders. Whoa! In a flash, the sound of the sharp blade entering the flesh suddenly sounded. The two late-aged men didn't have time to turn around, so they felt a pain of tearing in their back. Immediately, a clear blade flew out along their chest, with blood pouring down on the ground. Dawn! Immediately, two bodies fell to the ground. Along the body, a large pool of blood spread. This scene made the whole front of the hall completely fall into a dead silence. All the disciples of Tai sect were staring at the two bodies that fell to the ground. They couldn't believe their eyes. In their eyes, the latter stage of Tianji is already as towering as a mountain. They can't understand how a man so powerful can join hands with a young man of the same age. Moreover, the other side killed these two people, or so relaxed at will, as if and killed two weak flies, no difference. At this moment, they suddenly feel that at this moment, in front of Tian, their existence is no different from those ordinary people who were regarded as mole ants by them in the past, and they can't do any resistance. Tian, it's over. After a long silence, suddenly, I don't know who it is, I suddenly let out a cry with a trill. It's over. Tai gate is over. This voice fell, murmured and howled one after another, resounding around the hall. In the eyes of every Tian disciple, there was a strong color of despair. The death in the later days of the sky class has a great impact on them. The situation at this moment, as far as they are concerned, is no different from the collapse of the sky. Abandon cultivation, kneel down and live, rebel, die. Tian looks at this group of hasty Tai disciples in front of him indifferently, and says a light way word by word. Wow! After a few words, those Tai disciples glanced at each other. They didn't know who was the first leader. They threw away their swords, slapped their backhands heavily, and Dan Tian, and knelt down in front of Tian. A person's action is like a domino effect. In a flash, countless Tai disciples kneel down one after another, their heads are close to the ground, and even their eyes dare not have any intersection with Tian. There are hundreds of people, but none of them dare to stand up and fight with Tian. Not for other reasons, just because at this moment, they have completely understood what is absolutely powerful. In the face of this power, even if they were Tai sect, one of the 3 sects and 6 sects, they were ridiculously weak.